The Book of Inferno by Floowood. Read by the author. Chapter 1. The Ghost. They say when you die, your life flashes before your eyes, but the memories I look back on appear to move in slow motion. I stand before a window. At least I think I'm standing. Perhaps I'm floating. My being bears none of the weight it once did. The emotional burdens I grew so used to carrying in life seem to have been lifted. Dissociated from my physical form, I'm immune to gravity. The sensation of weightlessness is foreign and uncomfortable. I feel adrift, like an untethered astronaut tumbling through space without anything to hold on to. Where am I? I wonder. Where is my body? What is this strange new container my spirit finds itself in? The walls around me are white and nondescript, expanding into infinity. Fog masks the floor, hovering at my feet, never rising past my knees. The room is void of doors with no obvious way in or out, only a window to look through. For some reason, I have no memory of how I came to be in this space, nor can I remember how long I've lingered here. Minutes, hours, days, years. I always imagined time moved in a straight line, but watching the window curtains repeat the same billowing patterns, I find myself stuck in a loop like a revolving circle. It's impossible to trace how long ago the wheel started turning or how many times I've been through the rotation. Fighting to find an anchor, I center my gaze on the window before me and reach out to grab the white curtains. I'm too far away to hold on to anything. All I can do is stare helplessly at the rippling veil. Behind the curtain, I catch glimpses of faces. I recognize these people, but I can't recall their names. It feels like I'm watching a movie with actors I know without remembering where I've seen them before. It's familiarity without context. Why is it so hard to remember, I wonder? I can't even remember my own name. The realization terrifies me. Without a name, do I even exist? Who am I? The vibrations of my internal shout reverberate off the inside of my skull and return to me, bringing with them a recollection. A name lingering within my marrow, a part of me that can never be forgotten, or ignored, or pushed aside. Corbin. My name was Corbin. A chill accompanies the revelation. Was. I repeat, hesitant to accept the implications of my language. Why am I referring to myself in the past tense? I know the answer, though I don't dare utter it aloud. A part of me can't bear to admit the truth. Nevertheless, the thought surfaces. I'm dead. Watching little flickers of light drift through the billowing curtains, I think about all the stories that everyone has ever told me about what happens when you die. Yet standing here, in this strange place, I wonder if the stories about the light at the end of the tunnel could be true. Could this window I'm looking through be the portal to the afterlife? If that's the case, why can't I move closer to it? Why am I frozen in time and space? Why can't I move on? The window reveals nothing of my future. All I see are scenes from my past, visions of my younger self. I'm 5, climbing a tree for the first time. The wood feels rough under my palms. I'm sweating like I have the flu. The summer air is hot and humid. There are other faceless children around me shouting at me, cheering me on. I climb to a high branch and sit there, basking in the sun. I should have been afraid of falling, but I'm not. And right now, I should be afraid of what's happening to me, but I'm not. I feel no surge of emotion or fondness for my younger self. It's like someone has pointed a remote control at my heart and hit pause on all feelings. I am nothing more than an impartial observer, a fly on the wall of my own existence. I'm 6. My father teaches me how to draw. My sketches are crude. The lines are uneven. I tell my father that I want to draw a superhero. I want to make something that is brave, brilliant, and beautiful, but my drawings are shaky. My father tells me to keep trying. As long as I keep practicing, one day, I'll create art that I can be proud of. I'm 7. My mother holds my head gently in her lap. Running fingers through my hair, she sings softly under her breath. Her voice washes over me like the ocean. I lose myself in her voice. The curl of her tongue, each syllable is a comfort. Her every word helps cement my beliefs about the world. I learn who I am based on the stories she tells me about myself. I am creative. I am intelligent. I'm stubborn. I'm special. Hearing my mother's praise brings me joy. She is sunshine eternal. In the light of her love, my mouth twitches into the faintest of smiles. I'm 8 when my parents tell me they are getting a divorce. I'm shaking. I curl my fingers into fist and take a deep breath, then another. I don't want to cry, but there are tears pricking my eyes. I recall the sound of my mother's car driving away, the way the tires squealed outside. My father ordered pizza that night. I've hated it ever since. I'm 9, holding my grandmother's hand, kneeling beside her hospital bed, surrounded by chirping machines. The room is cold and smells of chemicals. My grandmother's skin is pale and paper-thin. Darkness cradles her eyes like inky bruises. For the first time in my life, I confront death. My grandmother tells me not to be afraid. Death is a part of life. I tell myself, this is not how I want to die. My grandmother looks peaceful in her casket. Her eyes are closed. She's dressed in pretty clothing. They play Johnny Cash at her wake, and I imagine her walking arm in arm with the man in black. I'm back in the hospital, only now the men in white coats are talking to me. The doctors diagnosed me with restrictive air disease. My chest feels tight like something is weighing down on my heart. My throat feels scratchy and my nose is congested with polyps. Every breath is a struggle. My lungs ache, and I begin to fear that one day I may never breathe again. These are not good memories, I think, but they are pivotal ones. These moments shape me into the man that I am, or rather, the man that I was. Memories crystallize, sharpening into focus. I breathe deeply, stealing courage. I'm 10 years old, taking the stage as a young motivational speaker to share my dream of planting 1,000 trees in Oklahoma to fight pollution and purify the air. Looking out into the sea of faces, I announce proudly that the clean air campaign I launched has garnered commitments to plant 169,105 trees. The audience rises in a standing ovation like trees sprouting in rapid time. I find pride in this moment. It's the only proof I did anything of service with my life. Looking back, I can't help but wonder, outside of planting those trees, did I ever offer anything of value to the world? Answering this question requires me to acknowledge the war that wages inside me. I'm proud of my life, yet I'm also disappointed I didn't do more, especially as an adult. The longer I lived, the more comfortable and distracted I became. And rather than serve the world, I chose to serve myself. I'm 25, living in Los Angeles, chasing spotlight and fortune. I find neither. Instead, I exist for the sake of existing, lusting for validation, consuming trash, incurring debt, wasting time, measuring myself against the successful people I watch online. More than anything, I want to be seen as successful. I want to be desired. I want to stand out. And from that desire emerges Floowood, a new name, one I chose myself. My identity as an artist. It is the name of all I could be, a version of myself that is free from limiting beliefs. I embody the fool wandering the dark woods of his inner nature, uncensored and unafraid to speak my mind regardless what others think. I dress myself in shadows, hiding my eyes behind black sclerocontact lenses. My desire is to be different, to be strange, to be anything more than just a ghost. The more music I release, the more I realize how little others enjoy it. My lyrics are challenging. I tell myself the world isn't ready to hear my voice. I convince myself that it has nothing to do with my talent. People simply lack the capacity to listen anymore. They only watch, and yet nobody seems to see me. Until I meet her. I'm 28, ordering a drink in the crimson candlelight of a basement speakeasy called Cloak and Dagger. My black eyes search the crowd. A sign hangs over the entryway reading "Sinners Only." The rules to enter the secret nightclub are simple. You must be a card-carrying member, and you must wear all black. At last, I think. My heart pounds with anticipation. This is the moment I've always wanted to relive. This is the moment I meet my future wife, or rather, the moment our souls meet again. I feel something heavy and solid sitting in the base of my throat. It's not nerves, more like euphoria. Seeing her face is the closest thing to heaven I will ever experience. She appears across the room like an angel stepping out of the dark. She is alone in the crowd, sipping a drink, dressed in black like everyone else. Somehow, she manages to look twice as stunning. She looks at me, her mouth curls into the start of a smile. I'm struck by how lovely she is. With just a look, just one glance, I feel compelled to approach her. drawn in by some invisible energy I can't see but I can feel. I am a comet on fire pulled in by her gravity. Strangers look up as I pass them like a shooting star, wishing for meaningful connection before their eyes return to their phones, possessed by the blue screens. To these people, I'm inconsequential, yet this lovely woman keeps eyeing me as if she sees something of genuine interest. It feels like she's really seeing me. She is taking me in heart and soul and not just accepting me for what I am. She's welcoming me for who I am. "Any room for male dialogue?" I ask with a smile. It's my best line. It makes most women I approach lean forward with interest. "What?" She responds as if she can't hear me over the thumping bass of techno. The music is loud, but she's got a dulcet voice. It's just as pretty to listen to as she is to look at. I'm lost in her eyes, drowning in crystal blue lagoons. I know that this woman will be my greatest inspiration. This woman will help me see the best in the world and the best in myself. I can tell that she is a natural healer. She is my twin flame, a single soul split into two at the beginning of time. My corresponding half, my perfect woman. The person that holds my heart with both hands. "Can we talk?" I ask, praying that she says yes. There's something about this woman that makes my heart sing. My soul shouts with excitement. The attraction is overwhelming, all-encompassing. I'm a fish on a line. I'm a fly in a wine glass. I'm a mouse chasing down a glorious piece of heavenly cheese. "Show me your eyes," she says. "That's where the soul is." It's an old saying, eyes are the window to the soul. You can tell everything there is to know about a person by looking into their eyes and seeing what's floating there, what's hidden behind their pupils in the deepest recess of their being. I pull my contact case out of my back pocket and open it. Removing my sclera contacts, I store them back in their case. I blink a few times, seeing clearly. A filter has been removed from the world and I'm seeing for what it truly is. Love. The woman smiles. "There you are." I smirk back at her. I know my grin is a little goofy and a lot crooked. Nothing like her stunning smile. I cherish every moment she looks at me. The way she laughs is enchanting. Her lips pull back to show off just a flash of teeth. She has freckles, the kind that stand out after a day at the beach. "What's your name?" "Alison," she replies. All is one. We spend all night talking and drinking, getting to know each other. Before we say goodbye, our foreheads touch. I feel her energy pervade me, circulating through my body, warming my blood, flooding my heart. I absorb all she has to offer, amplify it, and send the energy back. My senses explode the first time we kiss, standing in the middle of the street, unwilling to let each other go home alone. Her lips taste like strawberry lip balm. Her skin feels soft in my hands. It's like touching a goddess. I brush back her hair to caress the back of her neck. Her arms loop around my neck, grabbing fistfuls of my curls. Our lips meet, perfectly matched like puzzle pieces. "There you are," she repeats. I want to stay here, I think. Wherever I am right now. This feels safe. Thinking about my life with my love, is this not heaven? The answer's no. Heaven would be holding her in my arms. This being here alone, watching our romance through a window, is actually torture. I find no relief in what I see next. The visions are blurred by a milky film. I'm 28. A cataract is inexplicably formed in my right eye, blinding me. Strapped to an operating table, I lay awake but anesthetized as the surgeon cuts into my sclera. The light refracts and blurs like a supernova, expanding and all-consuming. It pushes me away from the comfort of lovely, peaceful memories, back to a place of blind uncertainty. There's a force pulling me away from the window. I can sense I'm supposed to move on, but I resist. I don't know how long the pull has been there, tugging at the base of my spine, but now that I'm aware of it, it feels like it's been an eternity. I'm fighting to remain upright, resisting the urge to slip backwards. I want to keep peering through the window, looking back on my life. With my vision restored, I see myself propose to the high priestess atop a Mayan pyramid. The sun glints on the ring that I offer. Together we walk hand in hand through the halls of the Osirian in Egypt and scale the peaks of Machu Picchu. We marry in the jungles of Bali beside a waterfall. The cascade crashes down into a small lake, sending up a spray of mist. The sun catches on the water droplets and turns them into floating sparkles. I see my love reflected in my wife's crystal labradorite eyes. I am yours, always and forever. The vision of our wedding disperses like a body of water disturbed by a splash. The ripples push everything further into the future. I'm 33. I'm married. I'm domesticated. I'm alone. My wife has gone far away, traveling to pursue her path as a shaman in Central America. For 3 months, I've drifted through life without her, pretending I'm still an artist, pretending I'm still Floowood. Though I practice, I never become the artist that my father is, nor the artist he believed I could be. Instead of paint on canvas, I create with sound and syllables. I can find the music in everything. I compile the things that I see and hear in the world in order to use it as inspiration for my songs, but every beat I compose is dark. Every time I write, my soul bleeds on paper. I rap in a trenchant voice and intricate rhyme schemes over industrial cinematic beats. My music is not commercial. It is non-traditional. It is uncomfortable. It is shadow work. My mother and father struggle to follow the lyrics. They don't understand. They say I should sing more. I tell my father that I want to be a superhero. I want to be someone who is brave, brilliant, and beautiful, but my voice is shaky. My father tells me I should drop the act. As long as I keep chasing fantasies, I'll never be able to create a life I can be proud of. I stop releasing music. I stop performing. These days, people are scared of public gatherings. It's safer to be at home, and that isolation comes with even more silence. Inside my empty house, the silence presses against my ears, threatening to deafen me. After all these years of trying to be someone I'm not, I see myself for the fool that I am. My music career is a joke. I have less than 100 listeners on Spotify. I question myself, my talent, and my worth. A part of me feels like this pursuit is hopeless, yet for some reason, I don't stop. I press on, spending hours designing pictures to post on social media. I resize the photos to fit all the necessary boxes. Every platform demands different dimensions of conformity. I Photoshop away my flaws. I want to be perfect. I want to be discovered. I want to be saved. God, help me, somebody. I watch television in a stone daze, gripped by fear. Every day there's something new and awful on the television. Threats of war, ecological crisis, unprecedented division, rampant depression and anxiety, disease outbreaks, variants, and vaccines. More reports of more people dead, more people sick, more people desperately drawing weapons in the streets. The world televises these events, but does not try to change them. I see no light at the end of the tunnel for humanity. There is no light to be found anywhere. I try to stop watching, but I keep returning to fear. I click on news stories that upset me. I provoke strangers online. I block those who I disagree with. I insulate. I isolate. I am hopelessly addicted to feeling hopeless. Climate experts portend the end of life on Earth. I watch news reports of refugees displaced by drought and rising sea levels. Millions must relocate. I watch footage from across the world of a young woman with brown skin protesting in the street wearing a yellow raincoat. Her face is hidden behind a face mask. She holds a poster board sign that reads, "Don't burn my future." Is the world going up in flames? I'm not sure if I can trust what I see on TV anymore. The conspiracies I research online are becoming increasingly appealing. I find solace in blame, demanding better from others but not from myself. Protest is easy. I'd rather point fingers than participate in solving problems. I assure myself that someone else will take care of these issues. I read reports that my water is poisoned with pharmaceuticals and chemicals, but I continue to drink it. I get comfortable and fat. I order Uber Eats late at night, every night. I tip the driver a measly $1. I gorge on fast food, processed chicken, beef, and pork, throwing away heaps of trash. All I do is thoughtlessly consume and produce waste. It's a horrible habit, but one that I can't seem to break. To be honest, I don't even try. I search out pornography to distract me from my loneliness. The more I watch, the more I lust for real intimacy. Bodies collide on screen like naked marionettes in loveless, garish parodies. I feel myself tangled in their strings. Eating popcorn, I scroll through YouTube videos of conspiracy theories and political commentary. I obsess over knowing the truth. I want desperately to be right and to help others see how they are wrong. Regardless how much I rant and post online, I cannot convince anyone that my truth is the truth. Nobody listens. Everyone is too engrossed in their devices, including me. I'm unaware of how isolated I've become. I think I'm using the computer to manipulate reality, but in reality, the computer manipulates me. I am possessed by technology, poisoned by its toxicity. Reports of riots and mass shootings flood my newsfeed. I'm numb to the despair. It's sad to admit, but I've grown desensitized to the suffering of the world. I simply don't have the energy to empathize. How can I pour into their cup if mine isn't full? I have to think about myself. I have to focus on what I want. I need to get ahead. I need to be special. So I choose ignorance. I ignore the report that the United States of America killed innocent children in a drone strike. I ignore notifications that I spend 17 hours per day on my phone. I ignore the weight I gain and the debt I incur. I ignore the homeless men and women I pass on the street. I ignore all the gifts that I have been given. Instead, I focus my attention on what has been taken from me. I cement my identity as a victim, an overlooked, lonely artist, ignored by his family, neglected by his wife, and shunned by society. Clinging to my labels, I pity myself. Resentment consumes me. I feel so inadequate and unimportant that I can't help but laugh in the face of despair. I feel myself losing touch with reality. What's the point of pretending to be sane in a world full of clowns? Society is a bad joke. My only escape is entertainment. Joker is the highest-grossing R-rated movie in America. I've watched it dozens of times, even though the storyline disturbs me. I can't help but sympathize with the tragic villain. He is a victim of a compassionless culture driven to become a victimizer. All he ever wanted was to be heard, to be seen, to entertain, but the world rejected him. I know how he feels. This lack of attention is like a disease eating at my bones. It's like maggots stripping away my flesh. There is no substance to me. I am a ghost of myself. I am hateful. I am ungrateful. I am cellophane. I've lost the battle that wages inside me. The man I see in the mirror disgusts me. He's nothing. He's a failure. And I can't help but wonder if the world would be better off without me. Would my wife be better off without me? Isn't that why she left me alone to pursue her path? What is my path? The thought sticks in the back of my mind, a little pinprick carrying an infection that spreads. It never goes away, even when it's not at the forefront of my thoughts. Every time I share content without getting a like, that thought resurfaces. What am I doing? Does any of it matter? Would everyone simply be better off without my ghost haunting their timelines and inboxes? How much better would their lives be without me constantly bombarding them with links to my music videos, pleading for likes and comments? I spend money to save face, buying views and followers because I cannot accept the reality that I may not be as special as I believe. I will never be bold, brilliant, and beautiful. I form new limiting beliefs, not only about Corbin, but about Floowood. Nobody cares about my music. Nobody cares what I have to say. To be famous, I need to be fit, but I can't stop eating and smoking to make myself feel better. I can't stop seeking attention online even though I suffer every time I post. I hate the people around me. I hate them because I want them to love me. I hate myself because I'm unworthy of love. Nevertheless, I still pretend to be someone I'm not to strangers, someone to look up to online. I fake it, but I never make it. I suppose that makes it easier to accept losing it all. Acknowledging my failure in life makes it easier to embrace death. How long have I been in denial? How long have I been trapped in this state, alive but not living? How do I escape this suffering? The force tugging at my back grows stronger, impossible to resist. I can no longer maintain my footing. My boots lift off the ground, and my spirit body flies backwards into empty space. Chapter 2. The God of Death. What happened? I ask myself, trying to remember. What has happened to me? I stand in front of a sink, looking into a tall mirror. Fog shrouds my reflection. Words have been smeared on the glass with red lipstick. I am love. Is this a memory? I ask myself. Why is this place so familiar? Then I remember, this is my bathroom. This is my home, but it is filthy. Beyond the lipstick writing, there is grime clinging to the mirror before me. Soot, maybe, or just dirt. I suppose it's been a while since I found the energy to clean my house, but has it really gotten this bad while I wasn't paying attention? No, that can't be it, I think. Who wrote these words? Where did they come from? The bright red lipstick keeps pulling my gaze back to the message no matter how many times I look away. I am love. Why are these words so familiar? What do they mean? I reach out, tracing over the writing gently with one finger. I wipe away the fog, seeing my face. My right eye is traced with black eyeliner. The curved markings resemble the eye of Horus. I know this symbol. I hear water clatter on the floor at my boots. I jerk away from the sink, discovering that it's clogged. Murky water spills over the rim, cascading in black curtains. The darkness pools across the cracked tile floor. There must be a blockage, I think. Something is clogging the drain pipes. Something is stuck. I am stuck. Why am I stuck here? I stagger backwards, shaking my head. My feet slip on the slick water. I crash hard onto the bathroom floor. My skull cracks. The pain is splitting, and when I open my eyes once more, I am seated in a tall, Gothic leather chair, cushioned in the middle of a black void. The void is endless in its existence, stretching out in all directions. Fog dances over the floor, curling over my studded boots. My elbows sink into my knees, stiff as the legs and armrest of the ornate leather chair I sit upon. I sink into the cushion, a miserable, hunched creature, stealing comfort in the blankness. Nothing is hidden here, and yet it feels safe to hide, until I sense that I'm no longer alone. I look up to see a figure towering over me, draped in a black cloak. His face resembles a canine with short fur, a sharp snout, and erect, pointed ears. An ankh marks his forehead, centered between piercing eyes. There is no light in the void, and yet the gold mark seems to glint. The wolf-like entity growls as it breathes, yet I sense no aggression nor negative intention directed towards me. On the contrary, this creature is the only source of warmth in this chill, empty realm. I do not fear it. The more I look at it, the more I recognize it. Before me stands Anubis, the god of death, the one the ancient Egyptians believed ushered souls into the afterlife, the one they say would weigh the hearts of the dead on the scales of justice against a feather to determine a soul's worthiness of entering the afterlife. The god of death has come for me. In his right hand he carries an ornate staff topped with an ankh, the symbol of life. The teardrop cross resembles a key. My hands lock as I consider what the god of death has in store for me. There is no escaping whatever fate he intends. Anubis' mouth does not move as he speaks. Instead, I hear his voice as a breathy, alien whisper inside my mind. His deep voice reminds me of a song played in reverse on a vinyl record at half speed. Although I've never heard this strange wheezing language before, I understand every word.
Your life is nothing but a dream,
says the god of death.
You are dreaming. You are dreaming with the brain awake.
That doesn't make sense. This doesn't feel like a dream. This feels like something that is really happening. It feels as though I've left behind my home, my life, and everything that I've ever known. This void has swallowed me alive. I feel a headache starting up behind my eyes. I don't get them often, but when they hit, it's all I can focus on. It's all of this darkness, I think. It's all a distraction. Why can't I focus? I can't stop squinting even though there's nothing to actually see. There is no light in the void.
Those who came before you taught you what to believe, what is good and bad, right and wrong.
I never chose my beliefs, I say, processing the information as I speak. Anubis shakes his head.
No, but you agreed to believe them unconditionally. That is called faith. Your belief system rules your mind like a code of law. It judges everyone and everything according to that code. Another part of you suffers these judgments. That part is called the victim.
Anubis takes a step forward, pressing into the emptiness. The void is disrupted. It shivers and shakes like rippling water.
The victim endlessly relives mistakes and punishes yourself for them.
Fear grips my heart. I can't stop the sweat dripping down my forehead into my eyes, clouding my vision. My voice shakes as I admit, I can't move on. Anubis looks upon me with pity in his eyes.
The way you punish yourself is abuse. Justice is paying only once for a mistake. Humans are the only animal on Earth that pay 1,000 times for one mistake.
Anubis draws closer. For a moment I'm afraid he will reach out and grab me. His touch would surely mean my demise. I shudder as I imagine being cast into eternal darkness.
That's what hell is.
Explains the god of death.
A state of mind in which we suffer, when our dream becomes a nightmare.
I have to work my throat a few times before I'm able to ask, "Is that where I am?"
Yes.
Anubis confirms.
I've come to help you see that. You've lingered here as a ghost for some time, refusing to accept your fate.
A great wave of sorrow sweeps into me. I hide my face in my hands, barely able to resist the urge to get up and flee. I'm dead. The words escape me as a whisper, barely breathed into existence. Anubis nods in confirmation.
You must come with me now. It is time for your spirit to move on.
I feel the faintest kindling of hope within me, like an ember at the bottom of a fireplace struggling to light back up. May I live again? Anubis' tone takes on a lilt, almost pleased.
Only after you save your soul from the underworld.
My hands drop into my lap. How?
By taking the suffering of the world upon yourself,
Says Anubis.
Should your spirit wish to be reborn, you must descend into the 9 circles of the Inferno.
What awaits me there? I regret the question the moment I ask.
9 circles of hell. Limbo, lust, gluttony, greed, anger, heresy, violence, fraud, and treachery. The only way to advance is to battle your demons. To triumph, you must see yourself as the problem and the solution. If you defeat the devil in the 9th circle, you will have the opportunity to meet God face to face and live again.
What a terrifying thought. Facing down the devil and speaking to God. Both challenges are equally terrifying in their enormity. Who am I to do either of those things? A meandering musician? A stubborn artist? One more brick in the corporate wall? One more face in the crowded theater? Who am I to deserve such attention or demand such an audience? The thought feels almost obscene in its reality. It feels as though my mouth has turned to sandpaper. I move my jaw a few times, wondering why I can't squeeze my back teeth together, struggling to clear my throat enough for my voice to return. I have no choice. I have to try. Bowing his head, Anubis extends his left hand, pointing to the sudden apparition of a red door floating in the black void. Smoke drifts across the path leading to the threshold.
Your gate to the Inferno awaits.
Why is this being asked of me? What have I ever done to deserve this? In life, I was nothing more than a ghost. How could I become something more in death? But how could I turn down a chance to return to the world of the living? I'd be a fool to turn down the possibility of a second chance. I'd also be a fool to try. This is my test. This is my blind leap, my chance to make my own fate, to prove I can be brave, brilliant, and beautiful. Slowly, I rise, steadying myself on the armrests. It's hard to find balance in the shadows. It feels like the ground shouldn't be there. Somehow, the void is solid underneath the soles of my boots. It holds my weight without the slightest waver. Step by step, I advance towards the door. I pause at the threshold, taking in the simple red frame. I feel scorching heat seeping through the portal. I'm certain that a fate worse than death awaits me on the other side. Still, I can't turn away. A glance back at Anubis would be a betrayal of the chance I've been given. I must move forward. I must pass through. Sucking in a deep breath, I twist the knob and peel open the door. Orange firelight illuminates my face as I gaze upon a burning wasteland. A flash of lightning splits the sky, followed by roaring thunder. A black sun hovers oppressively overhead like a brooding storm above a fiery ocean. The heat of it dries the liquid from my eyes and makes my skin feel taut. I stagger back, overwhelmed by the deafening sound of millions of souls screaming out in unison. This is hell as it must surely be imagined by the devout. An infernal world of fire and brimstone, flames and misery. The magnitude of the suffering is overwhelming. I freeze before the door. Doubt follows my hesitation. Is this really something I can manage? I've given up in the face of far less before. Will I survive? The only way to answer my question is to step forward. As I do, the ground vanishes beneath my feet. and I descend into the molten wasteland in free fall. Chapter 3. The God of Order. I'm 7 years old, huddled in my grandmother's storm cellar. The power is out. A storm rages outside. Tornado sirens blare. My grandmother whispers in my ear not to fear the storm. She gives me a flashlight and assures me that everything will be all right. She tunes her handheld radio to her favorite country station. The static subsides to tinny guitar. They're playing Johnny Cash. She smiles and tells me that nobody can sing like the man in black. The song still echoes in my memory. I fell into a burning ring of fire. I fell down, 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 and the flames got higher. And it burns, burns, burns. The ring of fire. The ring of fire. I can't control my descent. My body flips in a wild tumble through the air. Fires rage around me in every direction. The orange flames flicker with shades of white and blue. The pale colors are a shock against the backdrop of dark volcanic rock. The razor-sharp mountains appear to be carved from the night itself, as black as the sun that dominates the sky above. Angry masses of crimson mist huddle around the dark star like sores that have grown terribly infected. The clouds rupture as I plummet through them, limbs thrashing. I can't breathe. The wind smothers my mouth and screeches like a falcon in my ears. I feel my stomach drop and my heart lodge in my throat. There's no way to escape this fall. Anubis might have offered me a second chance, but at this moment, all I see ahead of me is a second death. It's impossible to decide which fate is worse, hitting the rocks in a sizzling splatter, or splashing into the writhing sea of naked, wriggling bodies. Either end is terrifying. I twist in midair, struggling to right myself, as though I might miraculously find something to hold on to, but there's nothing to grab. Closing my eyes, I surrender to the descent, retreating into the safety of my memory. I'm in bed with the love of my life, my twin flame, cuddling underneath linen sheets. The soft amber light of a salt lamp illuminates our tangled bodies. It's been less than a week since we first met, and we're helpless to do anything but fall in each other's embrace. I've never felt so connected to another human being. I've never felt so comfortable being naked, completely exposed yet completely accepted, completely myself. Receiving her affection assures me that I am worthy of love. I've never felt this way before, I confess. For the first time, I feel whole. My love shakes her head softly. You don't need me to feel whole. Her hand rests gently on my chest, over my heart. You're already whole without me. I don't want to live without you. My hands cup her face softly. Leaving you would be like gouging out my right eye. I'd still see the world, but never in the same way. Her fingers skim from my cheek to my forehead, pressing into the center. You have 3 eyes, remember? Her response makes me smile. I know she's referring to my third eye, the pine cone-shaped pineal gland positioned between the hemispheres of my brain, offering perception beyond traditional sight. The Hindus and Buddhists believe the third eye is the gateway to enlightenment, but I've already found nirvana in the eyes of my high priestess. Don't lose sight of what's important. I love you always and forever. At night, I lay awake beside her, admiring her like the moon. My hands surf the pale dunes of her body. The sand blows away at my touch to uncover an ancient marking, an Egyptian hieroglyphic tattooed on her hip. The symbol resembles an almond eye. I've seen the mark before in Egyptian mythology books and the writings of New Age mystics. 2 lines descend from the tear duct, a stem with a single pointed thorn and a long tail curling into an elegant spiral. A 3rd line trails behind the eye, running parallel to a 4th, curved like a brow at the top. She calls the talisman the wajet, a symbol associated with royalty and good health. She's had the tattoo since she was 13. Who does the eye belong to? I ask. Horus, the god of the sky, defender of order, worshipped by the ancient Egyptians, she explains. They say his eyes watch over the world day and night like the sun and the moon. I chose this mark because it's a sign of protection. Like a shield? I ask. More like a suit of armor that heals your body the longer you wear it. Her palm presses against my chest, feeling the beat of my wounded heart. This could be the look you've been searching for. Instead of putting in those creepy black contacts, you could paint the wajet on your eye when you perform. Her words are prophetic, though I refuse to see them as such. I scoff at her suggestion. There's no way I'm going to start wearing mascara. People will get the wrong idea. You don't see it yet. She peers into me with a gaze that is both piercing and pleasing. Oh yeah? I smile in response to her challenge. What am I missing? The eyes are the gateway to the soul, remember? My attention returns to the Eye of Horus tattooed on my lover's hip. The symbol is as familiar to me as she is. The longer I look at it, the more I begin to suspect that it has followed me through lifetimes just as she has. Or perhaps it's always been me chasing them. Regardless, our cosmic contract has been fulfilled. The soul that was split in two at the beginning of eternity has found its missing half. Against all odds, our twin flames have found our way back to each other. Who knows how many times we've done this dance, navigating infinite worlds and infinite lifetimes. No matter how many times the Grim Reaper severs our bond with its scythe, we find our way back to each other. This alone is proof that true love can transcend death. As two eyes merge to form a singular vision, our souls unite in remembrance of oneness. Neither of us will ever be alone. My strength is hers. Her protection is mine. In love, we are inseparable. Through love, I am saved. Relinquishing all fear, I fall deeper into love. I feel a sudden painful jerk. A pair of powerful talons clamp down on my shoulders, hauling me higher into the sky. The whiplash makes me groan. Looking up, I spy an angelic figure with blue feathers and the head of a peregrine falcon. Below the neck, he wears a gold triangular breastplate emblazoned with an unblinking eye. Can it be? Horus? I call out in disbelief. The wind muffles my voice. The sky god carries me to safety. His 23-foot wingspan glows with a fiery blue aura that illuminates the turbid sky. His wings flare as he lands, depositing me atop a volcanic mountain crag. I collapse to my hands and knees. The rocks singe my skin the instant I fall. Wincing, I scamper to my feet, wondering how long it will take before the soles of my boots melt. The flames on the mountain peak around me grow into towering spires like skyscrapers licking the heavens. Above them, the black sun broods silently, drenching the land in perpetual shadow.
Congratulations,
says Horus. Unlike Anubis, the sky god does not wheeze or whisper. His voice is melodic and soothing, resonant like a crystal sound bowl.
You passed your first test.
What? Once more, I'm shocked that I can somehow comprehend the bizarre telepathic language of the ancient Egyptian gods.
That fall was your first test,
explains Horus.
I almost didn't save you.
Why not? Horus shrugs and folds his wings behind his back.
You cannot save someone who isn't ready to heal. My father taught me that.
Who was your father? I ask.
A great king named Osiris,
says Horus.
He ruled justly over Egypt for a period of prosperity, but over time, chaos corrupted his court. Eventually, his brother Set stabbed him in the back. Set was the god of chaos. He cut my father's body into 14 pieces and scattered them across the desert. Now, in death, Osiris rules over this realm.
My stomach clenches at the thought of being dissected. My hands clench together, trying to hold together my composture. I thought Anubis presided over the Inferno.
Anubis is the god of death,
clarifies Horus.
My father, Osiris, is the lord of the underworld. He assumed the throne after he was murdered by his brother. I fought my uncle to avenge my father, but the battle cost me my right eye.
I lost my right eye to a cataract, I point out. Horus shakes his head, annoyed.
You didn't lose anything. You are willfully blind.
I step back in offense. That's not true.
You lie to yourself. You deny your own corruption. You pretend your shadow does not exist rather than find the courage to confront it. My father, Osiris, died for the same reason. His refusal to acknowledge the corruption corroding his kingdom gave my uncle the opportunity to kill him.
How do I cure my corruption?
By letting go of all that you are not.
I don't understand.
That's why you are here.
Horus brandishes to the infernal realm surrounding us.
After I defeated my uncle Set and reclaimed my lost eye, I voyaged deep into the underworld, searching for a way to resurrect my father. When I found Osiris, I discovered he was as blind in death as he was in life. I concluded that the only way to revive him was to cure his blindness.
What did you do?
I gave my father the eyes that I'd won back from my uncle so that his vision would be restored. My eyes became his.
You literally gave him your eyes? I repeat, confused by the laws of the spirit world. I wonder if one can simply give away aspects of their physical form in the afterlife. Why not, I think. This isn't my real body after all. I left my earthly vessel behind. All I am now is a soul inside a spirit body. Horus nods, explaining.
My father had a rational mind, but he did not pay attention. To save him, I needed to help him see what he had become. I am here to help show you the same. It is your responsibility to witness the truth, even if it seems horrible. There is a lesson for you in this confrontation. Even if the horror of the experience injures your psyche and half blinds you, you must be unafraid to face the reality.
I made my choice. Looking up at the towering pillars of fire around me, I've never felt so small. This is my path, though it seems impossible to walk alone.
You are not alone.
Horus admires me like a lotus flower sprouting from the mud.
You are still walking in my footsteps, following my archetype. I am proof that it is possible to descend into the underworld and prevail. I've done it before.
I shake my head. But you're a god. I'm a nobody.
It doesn't matter.
Horus shakes his head.
The only thing that matters is what you are willing to sacrifice.
The question spurs me like a white-hot prod. What do I have to give? What service was I to my world? What legacy did I leave behind? What benefit did my existence yield to humanity? Did my life even matter? Looking back, I only recall the things I took selfishly for myself. All the information and products I unconsciously consumed. I was so busy learning, yearning, seeking, acquiring, that I was of no real service to anyone except corporations. The more I took from myself in pursuit of my passion, my grasping call to be noticed, the more possessive I became. The more I desired, the more I felt my life begin to stagnate. The more desperate I grew, the more I took for granted.
To create a new tradition, you must be willing to share your vision,
says Horus.
A new order based in self-sacrifice.
The words prompt a stir of unease in my chest. The anticipation reminds me of driving to get a shot, knowing that the sting will hurt you, yet knowing the pain is essential for my health. There's a need for this suffering, I'm sure, but I'm not sure what it is yet.
Can you turn this hell into a heaven?
Asks Horus.
The only goal now is the liberation from the pain of the dream, so that it can be sculpted in a celestial, heavenly manner. This is your opportunity to descend into the underworld, to share your vision with a fragmented, corrupt, chaotic world.
If you saved Osiris from the underworld, why are you still here? I ask. I know that it's foolish to question a god, yet I can't help myself. Why haven't you ascended? Thankfully, Horus doesn't look offended by the question. If anything, he looks amused. He looks pleased that I'm putting thought into what's happening.
The resurrection of Osiris happens inside of you.
Resurrection. The thought is almost insane to try and work out. I've never done anything in my life deserving of a second chance. I've never done anything. My music's fallen flat. Even my romance seems to have become strained. My wife is always traveling, my home empty. My heart breaks with each day that we aren't together. And as much as I want to come back, as much as I don't want this to be the ending of my story, I can't help but wonder, what's the point? Why was I chosen, I ask.
You weren't,
explains Horus.
You brought this fate upon yourself. As a ghost, you refused to transition peacefully into the afterlife. Now, the resurrection of the spirit must be earned. Should you wish to live again, you must brave the 9 levels of the Inferno and vanquish the devil at the bottom. Few souls take it upon themselves to journey this deep. Even fewer succeed.
The mention of the devil makes me shrink. Nervously, almost unwilling to hear the actual answer, I ask, do you think I have what it takes? Horus tilts his head to one side and then to the other.
That depends on how willing you are to see. So long as you remain willfully blind, like Osiris, you will never ascend.
I'm not blind. I insist.
Having eyes does not mean you can see. Everything around you is a reflection of yourself. The faces you encounter in the 9 circles will be familiar, like people from your memory, but they are not who you remember,
Horus warns.
They are projections, constructs of chaos designed to challenge you.
Anubis told me I must battle my demons.
Yes, but to be successful, you must heal your demons,
explains Horus. How?
By staring unblinking into the shadow and seeing God.
A horn bellows in the distance, signaling the arrival of a ship. I follow the sound. Looking down from the mountain, I see a black river and a sea of white, ashy bodies fighting to board a ferry. Horus follows my gaze.
I will take you to the dock, but from there, you must journey alone down the river Acheron to the first circle of the Inferno.
I nod, summoning courage. It's easier to feel brave with a god by my side. I remind myself that Horus's company is only temporary. I must find my own strength. Nevertheless, I am grateful someone is watching out for me. Thank you for helping me. Horus clasps my shoulder.
I see myself in you.
The falcon-headed god picks me up again, though this time I no longer feel like a rag doll being jerked around as my feet lift off the ground. Once more, I'm flying, carried on angel's wings, overlooking the scorched landscape. The fires eat at the land, not devouring it, but gnawing slowly on it. Sometimes plants need to be burned, I think. Wounds need to be lanced. Things must be hurt and damaged for there to be a chance to heal. Looking down from the sky, I wonder if this is really hell, or if this is the fire burning out the dead growth so that something new can grow. I want to grow again. I want to seize this chance that I've been given, and I want to actually be worth something. I want my heart to be worthy of eternal life. The sky god carries me to the mouth of a black river and sets me down on the bank. Will I see you again? I ask before we part.
I am with you always. You will see me so long as you choose to see me.
Horus doesn't wait beyond that. He takes flight once more, vanishing into the thick red clouds. I watch the sky god ascend with my neck craned back. He shrinks into an indistinct dot, and in a blink, he's gone. Chapter 4. Acheron. I forge onward, alone, unsure what to expect from the trials ahead. A ferry awaits at a dock at the bottom of the mountain. I see naked men and women, covered in caked, cracked ash, lined up to board the large boat. The ferry is the only way to cross the river of bubbling crude oil. I push my way through the crowd, squeezed shoulder to shoulder with sweaty bodies. The crowd surges forward suddenly, crashing towards the ferry. I lose my footing, swept up by the tide of bodies. I imagine myself at the center of a raging mosh pit. I manage to plant my feet, but an old man beside me collapses. I lurch to grab the old man and heave him to his feet before he's trampled. "You saved me," mumbles the old man. Ash falls from his hair as he shakes. He holds my hand desperately before the crowd surges again and rips us apart in different directions. Screams erupt from the mob. They sob and shout. "Help! Help! Help!" A booming laugh stills the crowd. Looking up the gangplank, I spy a tall hooded figure, draped in silks and dark satin. His gaunt face resembles a skull.
Greetings, lost souls.
His voice ushers an uneasy calm.
I am Acheron, ferryman of the damned. You have been denied entry into paradise. You are about to embark on a journey down the river Acheron to the 9 circles of hell. Come with me to face your judgment. Come with me to meet your doom.
My heart beats so loud that it thumps in my ears, steady as a tempo. I find a strange music in this environment. The blare of the fairy horn, the creak of the wood, the rattle of the chains, the sizzle of the fire, the tide of the river, the layering wails of the damned. A song forms inside of me, spilling out my mouth with defiant passion. Chasing death, tell Virgil that I want my life back. Lost my head a set, horse blind, but in time get a sight back. First you have to die if you wanna fly. Say goodbye to the world you know. Little crow, grow. The ashy faces in the crowd around me freeze. as though my words are a spell that instantly commands them. Someone stomps a foot. Once, twice. Others in the crowd take up the sound. They snap into line, falling into synchronized patterns of movement that brings order to the chaos. They march in place, never daring to stray outside formation.
Came back just to die again. Can't escape this world of sin. I use like my life depends. Aiming to the end of man. Reincarnating but not graduating. I'm stuck on the earth hibernating and hating without integrating my shadow. I think that I know but I don't.
The truth of the words punched me hard in the stomach and I let out a grunt. A smile crosses the ferryman's face, pulling his chapped, split skin back. His lips are singed. His teeth are sharp like a reptile's. There's something almost scaly about the texture of his flesh. His cowl keeps his eyes hidden from view, and yet I can feel his slit pupils on me. The ferryman's eyes are boring into my very soul, peeling back layers until I am bare. I perform for my captive audience as though my song is a coin to be bartered, a guarantee of safe passage into the unknown. I know it's foolish, but I can't help but hope these rhymes will be enough to convince Karen to sail me someplace else. Black water knocks against the hull of the ferry as I climb aboard. The men and women follow my song, moving in rhythm, stamping their feet. Step, step, step. It's the world's most twisted dance choreography. I stand in the center of the ferry, rapping.
I'm still a user, my life I abuse it. Addiction, I choose it, control, no I lose it. Take what I need, mouths need to feed. Give me more meat, give me more weed. Holding TP, more gasoline, electricity. Long live the coal industry, drilling the sea, polluting the beach, cutting the trees.
The other men and women aboard the ship give a sudden single stomp. All sounds cease, save the waves of the river. Karen laughs and smiles.
So you see the evil in how you consume. You lived complicit to the corruption. You lived complacent to the horror. Now, in death, you are culpable for your selfish ways. You took all you could from your planet and your fellow man to get ahead, and you gave nothing back. Your sins have led you to this end. Your sins have led you to oblivion.
Karen sweeps around the deck, circling me like a vulture.
Go on,
He shouts.
I didn't say you could stop.
I swallow audibly. Now there's no music, just my heartbeat in my ears. My voice trembles as I continue.
Death to the bees, replace them with technology. All that matters to me is the cost of conveniency, expediency, my tendency to choose dependency. Lazy complacency, consuming shamelessly, living so wastefully. Tool of the masonry, Karen, please ferry me, take me to therapy. I treat my mother so terribly.
Karen's knife-sharp smile widens. He moves close enough to grab me, but he doesn't touch. He just watches, lips curling, teeth gnashing.
More.
Desperation creeps into my voice.
Greed is the enemy, blocking ascendancy, convincing me to hold on to scarcity. Now I feel jealousy and a necessity to join the cult of celebrity. I buy the currency, sell out commercially, fail universally. To see reality, it's just a game of duality. Test of morality, are you a cure of a malady?
It's an honest question. This, I realize, isn't just the state of the world, but the state of myself. This kind of soul-searching is exactly what Karen wishes to hear.
I could be filthy like Weinstein. I could be rich like an Epstein. I drink the comb in my bloodstream. Donnie snorting amphetamines. I can get high, but when I die, I can take nothing with me but my life. Certain damnation, no hope of salvation, so my soul is sentenced to reincarnation.
Karen stands directly in front of me, leering.
In this realm, you will find no mercy. Only mirrors. Reflections of the suffering you dared not confront in life. 9 levels await past this gate. In the 9th circle, you shall be judged by the devil himself for your treachery. Screw up your courage, for now begins your descent into Inferno.
The passengers around me wail. I wonder why I don't look like these other people. Why isn't my body charred and caked with ash? How long have these poor souls been waiting for this ferry? I can't take my eyes off their naked, soot-caked forms. I wish they didn't have to suffer. I wish I didn't have to suffer. I wish I'd never died. I wish I'd lived differently. If only I could be back with my twin flame, making love, making music, making the most of life. Only in death do I understand the value of life. Life which remains golden even as the world descends into chaos. Life which remains precious even when so little is happening. Too little, too much. Life is a constant ebb and flow between extremes. Perhaps both versions of reality have something to offer. I can only hope to survive the Inferno and take that lesson back with me. At least Karen seems impressed by my song, I think to myself. That's a strange comfort in a way. It always feels good to be seen, but what does it say that the ferryman of the damned enjoyed my performance? What does that say about the music I make? Music is the material of my soul, but I don't know how to make others see or hear what I hear. I don't even know how to describe the genre of music I make, let alone market it. I bend and blend too many genres: alternative rock, electronic, hip-hop, world. The sounds are foreign. New things make people uncomfortable. They don't know how to define it. Nobody has ever been able to define my music. Perhaps by the end of my descent, I'll understand.
Enjoying your journey so far.
I recognize the breathy, hissy voice behind me. Turning around, I discover Anubis standing beside me on the ferry. I step back, unsure of the ancient Egyptian god's intention. It's you. How did you get here? There's a garbled sound. It's not a laugh, but it's something close to that.
I am your shadow in this realm,
says Anubis.
Everywhere you go, I follow, whether or not you see it.
Why?
I was assigned to be your judge.
The words are stated simply, as if they should be enough. I demand to know more. Assigned by who?
The devil,
reveals the god of death. The words send a shiver through my body. I squeeze my hands, tears well in my eyes as I beg. Please, you must help me get out of here. Anubis shakes his head.
There is no turning back.
I let my hands fall helpless. How will I be judged?
I will weigh your heart on the scales of justice.
What does that mean?
Your heart must prove lighter than a feather.
A feather? Like from a bird? How is that possible?
The feather belongs to Maat, the ancient Egyptian goddess of truth and justice.
Anubis explains.
Your heart is the record of all the good and bad deeds of all your lives.
Are you saying that the deeper I descend into the Inferno, the lighter my heart grows?
Only if you heal.
What happens if my heart isn't light enough? I have to ask.
Your heart will be devoured by the crocodile-headed dog, Amut. Trapped inside the belly of the demoness, your soul will never move on to the afterlife. Your misery will be unending.
Oh, is that all? I release a laugh like a sigh to mask my fear. I shake my head. My chest broils with anxiety. I want to change course. I want to go back, but that isn't an option. To ascend, I must descend.
The only way out of this hell is through it,
says Anubis, leaving me to wonder if the god of death can read my thoughts as well. The jackal-headed god brandishes an empty hand.
I have a gift for you.
What is it?
Your most prized possession in life,
says Anubis.
Perhaps it will be of service to you in death as well.
I feel a sudden weight drop into my pocket. My hand snakes inside my pants and pulls out my smartphone. It's the same model that I've carried around for 3 years, with the peeling Linkin Park sticker on the back and a hairline crack at the bottom of the screen. I stare at my reflection in the black mirror. Is this a joke? I ask, tapping the unresponsive power and home buttons. The damn thing won't even turn on.
That is because you have no power here,
says Anubis. Then what is the point of me carrying my phone around?
It is a mirror,
explains Anubis.
What do you see?
My reflection.
Look closer,
Anubis instructs. I take in the pinch of my lips, the crease of my brow, the twitch in my eyes. I look tired, worn, and terrified. I see fear.
Yes.
Anubis nods. His voice sounds pleased.
I see it too. In all of humanity, there is fear. It has taken over the dream.
The smartphone in my hand sounds an alarm. I recoil, looking down, and see the screen has turned blood red. The sight confuses me. I've never seen a smartphone exhibit such corruption. The red light pouring out of the screen grows brighter and brighter. My eyes ache as if I've been working on the computer for too long. Throwing out my arm, I try to drop my smartphone, but it feels as though my fingers are glued to the case. Looking closer, I see that my flesh has melted into the metal. My fingers have merged with the machine. Frantically, I shake my hand, trying to fling away the smartphone to no avail. The technology clings to me. What's happening? I demand to know. Is this real? Anubis cocks his head like a confused canine.
What is real?
The ferry reaches the edge of the river. Looking around, I see Anubis has vanished, as has Acheron. Only lost souls remain. The bow of the boat tips. I slip and slide as the stern pitches up. The passengers around me scream, clawing to hold on to the boat as the ferry plunges over the waterfall into the abyss. Chapter 5. Limbo. I awaken with a gasp, sitting alone in front of a TV inside a black, smoky void. The space reeks of coffee and cigarettes. The scent reminds me of my parents' house. Looking at the TV in front of me, I recognize the old-fashioned, boxy set. It's just like the old model that I grew up with in my living room. The screen flashes, buzzing with static. I see something move in between the flashes of black and white. Is it a face? Something is watching me behind the screen. I startle at the sound of loud music. I recognize the opening tune of the news broadcast my mother watched every night for almost 20 years. The white noise fades into color. Anubis appears on the television screen sitting behind a news desk. The jackal-headed god shuffles a stack of papers in his hands. He no longer speaks in the ancient tongue of the gods, but with the chipper cadence of a newscaster.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for tuning in.
Bright stage lights illuminate the name of the talk show behind Anubis.
Tonight on Devil's Advocate, we take a deep dive into how the mainstream media manipulates the masses. Every day, it's becoming harder and harder to discern fiction from fact. Words like fake news, conspiracy, and censorship dominate political conversations as more and more grow to question the agenda of the mainstream media. Tonight, we're joined by one truth seeker desperate to find order amidst chaos.
Suddenly, the TV itself starts to shake. On screen, Anubis says,
Corbin, the corporation would like to thank you for joining us on the program.
The darkness shifts, and I realize the TV rests on the shoulders of a machine man in a dark business suit the same color as the void. The sight is so bizarre that it almost makes me dizzy. What the hell is happening?
This is your first test,
Anubis announces on screen. The television changes channels. Anubis disappears, replaced by white noise. The machine man bows its TV head, speaking in a demented, digitized hiss like static.
We are the corporation. Do you seek truth or entertainment?
I seek truth, I speak without hesitation.
Liar.
The corporation laughs.
All you want is to be entertained.
People deserve to know the truth. The corporation shakes its TV head.
There is no truth. Not anymore. Only narrative. Only spin. We do not channel reality. We were designed to induce anxiety and urgency to keep you watching.
The white noise flickers, bouncing through news stations. Each network covers a different crime or plague, destruction and intolerance, poverty and hunger, war and sickness. There is no love in these images, no compassion. It is pure fear. Clips of familiar cable news pundits appear in quick succession. I recognize all my mother's favorite news personalities. Those who make a living selling stories of terror, war, and economic strife. Their voices stitched together. Each talking head contributes a few words before being replaced by a new anchor.
People are sick. Your government is run by tyrants. They are taking away your rights. The country is falling. There are rapists and murderers at the border coming to kill you. Our very way of life is under attack. We must fight to defend our freedom, even if it means another war.
Show me no more, I shout. The channel changes. White static returns, but the disturbing news reports are burned into my mind. The machine man leans forward in his chair, his hands fold in a confident bridge.
Are you afraid?
I nod. Is that what you want?
Fear is how we trap attention. Through fear, we control your dream. When people are afraid, their minds cease to function. They don't think. They isolate and disconnect. They will sacrifice every liberty for the illusion of safety.
I shake my head in disgust. You're programming people to believe what you tell them.
Hardly.
The machine man releases a stuttering laugh.
We don't care what you believe. You hold the control. You choose the channel. The content you watch is incidental. Our mission is not to inform your opinion. Our goal is to keep you engaged. That means I want you to get mad. I want you outraged by the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crime in the street. I want you to sit in your house and feel the world you're living in is slowly getting smaller. I want you to say, please, leave us alone in our living rooms. Let us have our tablets and our televisions and our 5G networks. Just leave us alone and we won't say anything.
It takes a moment for me to process what the corporation is saying. Something about this rhetoric feels familiar, reminiscent of Howard Beale's iconic incensed rant from the movie Network. Perhaps in 1976, a call to anger was the best way to undermine the media. Today, our anger is harnessed to exploit us. Rather than go out, we seclude ourselves in our apartments, sticking our heads outside our windows, screaming into the night, "I'm mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take it anymore." And with every inflammatory outburst, with every verbal attack, the cynical media machine grows stronger.
The medium is the message,
says the corporation. What does that mean? I ask.
Consuming entertainment on your phone has turned you into an isolated observer. The news you are fed caters specifically to your beliefs. It is nothing like the news prescribed to those you disagree with. Cable news is partisan by design. A network's obvious bias makes it easy for the opposing side to discredit their claims, regardless whether or not they are misinformed. The more you censor and block those with differing points of view, the more removed you become. The more you insulate, the more comfortable you get, the less you grow. Those who refuse to leave their comfort zone squabble indefinitely. They amuse themselves to death.
People will wake up, I insist. They'll see that their emotions are being used against them.
People like your mother,
asks the corporation. Go to hell, I snarl.
Hell is having a child who refuses to speak to you,
chides the machine man. His TV head oscillates with stiff disapproval.
You have no idea the hell that you put your poor mother through. You never saw the tears she cried as she read your response to her posts. You can't imagine how painful it was for her to see herself through your eyes. I only know because I was the one she turned to in your absence. It was me that assured her sorrow. I took all the love she once held for you in her heart and replaced it with fear.
I rise to my feet in a fury, balling my fists. I summon restraint. I remind myself that the corporation wants to prey on my emotions. I refuse to feed the beast. I will no longer allow you to feast on me. The machine man stands to meet me.
Even if you unplugged, you would still live in a culture whose vision follows our strategy. We are more than news. We are truth. We are entertainment. We are escape.
I scoff. You all talk like there wasn't ever a time before 24-hour news.
There was,
says the corporation.
But there's no going back.
With you, there's no going forward. I move closer. You are old and corrupt like a prison with rusted bars. You've lost all integrity, and that's what makes it so easy to break free of you. I circle the machine man, eyeing the power cord on the back of his TV head. The corporation pivots to meet my gaze. The TV screen flashes, flipping through channels. I see scenes from my favorite TV shows and my favorite celebrities. The machine man is doing everything he can to distract me.
You overestimate your power.
I take another step, then a third, and you underestimate the culture.
I am the culture,
the machine man bellows. I can sense it is afraid. You are the medium. I am the messenger. My face stops inches from the screen. You are nothing more than white noise. You cease to exist the moment I stop watching. I reach behind the television, strangling the thick power cord. The corporation grows very, very still. Static flickers on the TV screen as the machine man hisses.
You couldn't be less important. You are just one of millions of minds we possess every minute. There are billions more just like you we can feast on.
Fear is not real power. I rip the cord out of the TV. The screen dies with a blip of failing power. The machine man crumples to the ground. His TV head hits the ground in a flurry of sparks. To my surprise, the sound of static doesn't fade. The white noise remains. Frowning, I turn around and follow the sound. I see an older woman sunken in a recliner, sitting before another machine man with a TV head. She wears a bathrobe and slippers. Her wispy gray hair hangs down to her shoulders. The light from the television screen casts a pale, sickly glow over her wrinkled face. I hesitate at the sight of the woman. She looks just like my mother. She has the same round face, the same brown eyes. The rings on her hands are identical to the jewelry my mother wore. I gape, struck by the resemblance. Is that her? Is that really my mother? No, this can't be right. I speak the words aloud. Horus warned me this would happen. You're not really my mother. The woman makes no response. She seems not to hear me. Slowly, I reach out, as if my touch might break her spell. A part of me is terrified that this is my doing. Would my mother be here if I hadn't pulled her into so many arguments? Would my mother be here if I had not repeatedly tried to open her eyes to realities she did not wish to see? Why did we both insist on fighting over politics rather than loving each other? The question makes my heart ache. I remember the last words I said to my mother. I feel their edge now like a knife pressed to my throat. Open your eyes, I scream. Your generation ruined this world. Wake up. I feel the weight of shame on my shoulders. How could I be so cruel and condescending to the woman who gave me life? The question pricks a raw wound in my chest that makes me cringe. My mother looks confused as she stares at the TV. I can see she's struggling to find her own opinion in a sea of misinformation specifically designed to trigger her emotions and alter her thinking. Looking at the TV screen, I see nothing but white and black fuzz, though a part of me knows intuitively that what my mother sees and what I see are not the same. Mom? My voice quivers as I call out. The old woman doesn't respond. Mom? Is that you? I ask, creeping closer, unable to decide if it's really my mother or some big bad wolf dressed in her clothes ready to gobble me up. My fear doesn't stop me from moving closer. I have to help her. That's what a good son would do. And it's been a long time since I was a good son. Maybe this is the moment I can attempt to change that. Perhaps I can still reach her. Is there any hope for the older generation? I ask. They grew up in a society where the news was truth. Now they find themselves in a world where no television program can be trusted. I'm scared, mumbles my mother. Her fingers are tangled up in the cotton threads of her bathrobes. I'm so scared. Don't worry, I'll get you out of this. I advance quickly toward the machine man and yank on the plastic cord powering his TV head. To my surprise, the cable refuses to budge. I yank repeatedly, again and again. No matter how hard I tug, the cord won't disconnect. Cursing, I look over my shoulder, observing my mother staring at the television in a zombified trance. It doesn't appear as if she has any idea that I'm here. Her eyes are fixed on the screen. The sight unnerves me. What if I lose my mother like this in the real world? I think, and then an even more terrifying thought arises. What if I already lost her and I just don't remember? What if it's too late and I already drove my mother away? Why can't I unplug you? I grumble in frustration.
It is not your place to control another's dream.
I recognize Horus's voice inside my head. Turning around, I see the ancient Egyptian sky god is watching me with his arms crossed.
You can only disconnect yourself.
Please, my mother whimpers at the television. Her eyes are glassy and vacant, unable to look away from the horror. Please, somebody do something. I'm so scared. I'm so scared. How do we escape this programming, I wonder? People crowd around television sets instead of dinner tables, listening to pundits instead of their families. It's not just television. How many magazines and websites proudly peddle lies? How many corporations have built empires atop falsities and used fear in order to seize control? Why can't I help her unplug? I ask.
Those who pretend to sleep cannot be awakened.
Oh yeah? Then how did you do it? I ask. You told me that your father Osiris pretended to be blind, yet somehow you managed to restore his vision. How come you can save your father, but I can't save my mother?
You've misunderstood the story,
says Horus.
You see, I never made my father see anything the way I did.
But you said you gave him your eyes.
I said my eyes became his,
Horus corrected.
All we children eventually become our parents. I never saved my father. I became my father, only with vision. I chose not to be willfully blind as he was.
I bite my bottom lip, struggling to process the lesson. I look away from Horus, back at my mother. I can't choose for her.
You can love and support your mother, but you will never be her savior. That is the lesson of Limbo. There is no saving anyone but yourself.
With a whoosh, the sky god takes flight, leaving me alone with my mother. Unsure what comfort my presence can offer her, I cross the void to kneel beside her chair. I reach up to hold her gnarled hand in my own. "I'm so scared," she repeats. "I know," I reply, eyes brimming with tears. "But I'm here now, Mom. You don't have to be afraid." I pause before adding, "I'm not sure whether or not you can hear me, but I want you to know that I'm sorry. I want you to know that I love you a googolplex times a googolplex to the googolplex the power." At last, my mother's eyes flicker free from the television screen, connecting with mine. She's no longer afraid. She lights up like the dawn at the sight of my face. "My sweet angel," she cups my cheek. "My baby boy. I love you too, more than you'll ever know. There is nothing more important to me in this world than my sons." I hold her hand to my cheek. Tears drip down my face. This is real, I tell myself. This is my mother. I remember this feeling, the kind of love only a mother could offer. How could I ever forsake such a gift? My mother holds my head gently in her lap. Lowering my hood, she runs her fingers through my hair, singing softly beneath her breath. Her voice washes over me like the ocean. I lose myself in the curl of her tongue. Every syllable is a comfort. "We are the waves that make up one sea, the ocean of we, but we get confused, thinking that we're me. Forged identities. Return to nature. Just be. Love thy neighbor. A human being." Her every word helps cement my beliefs about the world. We are one. We are the waves. We are love. In this moment, I am safe. I am loved. Closing my eyes, I find solace in my mother's song and drift away. Chapter 6. Lust. I awaken with a startle in my den, sitting in front of my desktop computer. The screen flashes as I hear the startup chime. The light casts a faint blue tint over my face. The shadows shift behind me. I swivel in my desk chair, certain that I'm not alone. "Who's there?"
"Who do you wish to see?"
answers a sultry feminine voice. I feel the hairs on the back of my neck rise as a woman's shadow emerges from underneath my bed sheets. She moves slow and seductive, as if dancing. Her hands caress her curvaceous figure, enhanced by plastic surgery. A black leather bustier emphasizes her cleavage. Silver metal spikes adorn the bra. Black bondage straps interlace around her torso like a spider web. Chains dangle from the harness, rattling as she curls upright. A black lace mask hides the woman's face and hair. Fishnet stockings cling to her milky thighs. Gold and silver jewelry glints around her neck and hands. Her long, ornately painted nails resemble claws reaching towards me.
"I can show you anyone you desire."
I swallow at the sight of the seductress. I recognize her immediately, not by her face, but by the curves of her body. I've seen this woman many times before, though we've never met in the flesh. Nevertheless, I have seen her flesh. Her name is Isis Amor. She is the star of hundreds of adult films. I've watched her scenes countless times on my computer and my phone. Hearing her moan inside my head, I feel a sting of shame. I shouldn't know what she sounds like when she orgasms. But I do. I should have been a better husband, but temptation is so hard to resist. I avert my gaze from the porn star in my bed. Although a part of me knows this woman intimately, I cannot bring myself to address her by name. I doubt the alias I know her by is even her real name. There is no place for reality in pornography, I think. Porn is a dark, twisted fantasy. Surely, that's what this vision is before me. This can't be the Isis Amor. This can't be the paragon of sexuality that I've lusted over for so many years, especially after my wife started traveling so often. The women that I fantasize about online don't seem real. I've never met any of them in person before. I have only observed them through a screen. In my mind, they possess a mythic status. Like sirens or nymphs, They are creatures of imagination, half human, half divine. I chase their apparitions through cyber landscapes, collecting the pictures and videos they leave behind like fairy dust. The more data I download, the more power I possess to summon the sprites with a click. They appear at my command, naked pixies made of pixels floating before my eyes. I build a digital shrine to each of them and routinely sacrifice my time to their worship. I construct a temple to false golden idols, brick by brick, file by file, folder by folder. It is my foolish wish to somehow possess these women, to store them inside a virtual harem that I can revisit whenever I please. The idea possesses me. I become slave to it. I am no longer in control. I am dreaming someone else's dream. I'm watching someone else's experiences instead of creating my own. These fantasies are not mine. They aren't even alive. They will never look back at me or reach their hand through the screen. They offer no real company, no real comfort, no intimacy, only a temporary release. I am not part of their experience. As far as they're concerned, I'm not real. Show me a way out, I demand. I feel trapped. Isis Amor giggles and purrs.
I thought you came to me for escape.
I know that's how this all started, but it's different now. I shake my head. I can't control myself. Visions of you rule over my thoughts. I'm no longer my own master.
You should thank me.
Replies Isis Amor. Her legs dangle over the bed and spread apart.
I've given you everything that you've searched for.
And where has it led me? I ask. I'm still alone and more lost than ever. I'm tired of hiding from real life, from real love, to be with you. Isis Amor groans.
It's not my fault that you can't control where your filthy mind wanders.
Her hands slither from her chest to her neck.
You could control me instead. I'll show you anything you wish to see.
I jut out my lower lip in challenge. I want to see myself free of you.
Big words,
says Isis Amor. She slides off the bed and crawls on her hands and knees towards me.
I'm not the one keeping you here.
My body freezes as she moves closer. You make me lose control, I groan.
That's why you come back.
Isis Amor straddles my lap, pressing her face close against mine. We share the same breath. She smells of roses and rot. My body sinks under her weight. I can't help myself. I want to move on, but...
You never will.
She interrupts.
Never.
But I have to, I insist. I have to burn the bridge. My eyes dart toward my desktop computer screen. I spy the icon for the external drive that contains all my pornography. Terabytes and terabytes of twisted, dark fantasies. Behind her lace face mask, something cold flashes through Isis Amor's eyes.
You wouldn't.
With a surge of strength, I push the porn star off my lap. I spin around in my chair and lurch for my mouse and keyboard. Quick as a whip, I select the folder labeled XXX and drag it to the trash. Isis Amor's hands lasso my neck and yank me back into her arms. Once again, she climbs on top of me, dominating me.
You think you can live without me? You don't have the strength to let me go.
This relationship isn't healthy, I am adamant. Isis Amor snarls behind her lace mask. She scratches me.
I won't let you throw everything that we've created away. We've spent too much time together to let it all go to waste.
I want something real. I lean back in my chair as far as I can, trying to put as much space as possible between myself and this vision of temptation. It's not enough. Lust pulls me back in.
No, you don't. You want fake.
The words hit me like a physical blow. It is a painful truth to carry. Pornography has conditioned me to favor fantasy over reality. That which I desire most is all fake. Performative orgasms, bleached hair, silicone breasts, lip injections, and butt implants. To me, nothing is sexier than a woman's willingness to modify her body to be sexy. I believe a person's decision to remodel themselves into something they are not indicates a lack of self-love and a desperate desire to be seen as more than you are. The same desperation drove me to create Floowood. I dressed in black and painted my face with Egyptian regalia to mask my insecurities and make myself appear larger than life. The insight comes with an admission. I do not love myself as I am. I struggle to accept my appearance, my body, and my shape. I suppose that's why I'm so attracted to women who let doctors cut them open to make them beautiful. A part of me admires their willingness to change themselves, but I also wish we didn't feel so pressured by unrealistic expectations to be what we are not. I can only imagine how young girls feel scrolling through social media comparing their bodies to the half-naked influencers posing in front of the mirror with their tongue out. Had I been born female, I surely would have turned myself into a plastic doll, a hyper-sexualized commodity. Perhaps then, my music would sell. Our culture is obsessed with marketing and monetizing sexuality. Yet as individuals, we shy away from confronting our personal deviancy. We avoid awkward conversations about sex with our families, afraid of bearing our naked truths, afraid of being exposed and vulnerable. Rather than allow others to see us as we truly are, we isolate in self-pleasure, looking to porn stars to show us how sex could be. The more we model their loveless behavior, the more desensitized and dissatisfied we become. Pornography has programmed me to possess exaggerated, unreal beauty standards. It has taught women to behave like porn stars, putting male pleasure before their own, enduring their partner's repeated attempt to act out in real life the violence and degradation they witness online. Too often, I am ashamed of the defilement and objectification I watch.
You can't hide from me.
Isis Amore's whisper feels like steam in my ear.
I know everything that's on that hard drive. I know the kind of man you are.
I kick back my feet, sending my computer chair tumbling backward. Isis Amore falls off of me, rolling onto the ground. I scramble to my boots. I lurch forward to seize my mouse, dragging the cursor to empty trash. I click. Isis Amore opens her mouth to scream, but all that emerges is the sound of crumpled paper as the trash bin empties. The temptress blinks out of existence, a deleted file. Gone, as though she was never real, as though I never spent thousands of hours obsessing over her. It feels odd, as though something has been ripped out of the framework of my being, and yet I already feel the wounds starting to heal. Lust's infection seeps out of me, leaving behind room for new flesh to grow, a genuine relationship to form. More importantly, I feel relieved of lies and falsehoods. That is the real escape, liberation from the prison of lustful delusions that trap me. I pull in a deep, slow breath, letting this new reality of change wash over me. I did the right thing. I'm sure of it. The light in the room grows warmer. From behind, I hear a familiar voice call out, "Corbin?" I turn around to see my wife, my high priestess, wearing a white hood, sitting behind candles and tarot cards. I rush towards her. I drop onto the ground on the other side of the cards, my knees crack against the hardwood floor. "Corbin? Corbin, can you hear me?" "Yes," I tell her, my throat raw with emotion. "I can hear you. I don't believe it. How did you find me?" "You're my soulmate, Corbin," she says, voice still barely above a whisper. "We were made to find each other, even in the spirit world." "I've missed you," I say. "I've missed you so much. I wish that I'd never left." "We don't have much time," she tells me. "My grip here is already starting to weaken." I ask, "When you leave, can you take me with you?" She shakes her head. "We must accept death as a part of life. I had to accept that I couldn't save you." Sorrow drapes over me like a wet canvas. I all but wilt in front of my love. Maybe we can be together again in the next life." She tells me, "Not unless you save yourself from your suffering. That's why I traveled to the spirit world, to offer my protection and give you a gift to help you find your way back to me." From her white robes, she pulls out a chalice. The cup is carved of gold and twined with flowers. When I look into it, I find that it's empty and clean. "What is this?" "The Grail is your vessel," she explains. "If you allow the spirit to fill your cup, then you will never go thirsty." Thirsty? What am I supposed to drink? My brows furrow. I have more questions than answers. With a soft laugh, like chiming bells, my love leans forward and presses a chaste kiss to my forehead. "Trust yourself. You will know. You don't need to leave just yet, do you?" "Soon, but not just yet." "Will you sing to me?" A soft smile crosses her face. She sings the songs of the plants, buzzing and blowing protective energy over me. Warmth floods my body like I'm standing outside in the middle of a sunny summer day. A smile tugs at the corner of my lips. I tell her, I remember now. Her song stops.
What do you remember?
Everything. Every laugh. Every loving look. Every kiss. I have loved you for lifetimes. I say, feeling love wash over me like sunshine. You're my past and my present and my future. You're my always and my forever. The High Priestess smiles at me, all the warmth of the sun glowing in her gaze. I believe in you. Your spirit is strong. You can make it out of this. Ari Shakti Ram Hari. I will save myself for you. I promise. The love of my lifetime smiles. Tell me, do you remember my soul's name? I don't, I admit. I'm sorry, I only remember Alison. I only remember Ramhari and Prema. I am Ayani, she says. Carefully, she reaches out and presses the tips of her fingers to the back of one of my wrists. Her touch is warm as a sunbeam. You must know that no matter what happens, I will always be with you. I will always love you. Do you know why that is? I shake my head. I don't love myself, so I cannot comprehend how someone else might be able to love me so fully. Ayani reaches out to press her palm flat against my chest, directly over my heart. Somehow, I can feel her pulse through the connection. The beating of her heart is steady and hypnotic, filling my being with healing energy. Only love is real, says Ayani. Believe in yourself, as I believe in you. It's odd for me to hear someone say that they believe in me, and yet there's no lie or falsity to the statement. Ayani sees greatness hidden amongst all of my shadows. It is a light she knows can one day become a star. The belief is warm. I close my eyes, allowing the aura to flood my being. I grow through the love you show. The beating of Ayani's heart lulls me into a state of relaxation. I'm not certain whether I should try to fight against this feeling of calm. The sensation is like nothing else I've ever known, or perhaps it is exactly like something that I knew a long time ago, when I was swaddled in blankets and pressed to my mother's bosom, and her heartbeat was the same as mine. This is not a fantasy, I think. This is true intimacy. Ayani's gentle songs carry me to sleep. There is nothing I can do to fight the spell. The last thing I remember is my lover's smile, the way her heart pours into mine, and the feeling of overwhelming gratitude to know love and be loved in return. Chapter 7. Gluttony. I find no comfort where I wake next. I stand in a metal crate. A pool of waste sloshes at my feet. The crate is one of many inside a dark barn. The smell of waste and animals combines to form a stench that is truly stomach-churning. Hello? I call out, desperate for a way out. There's no answer. I shudder in the cold, cramped space. I shake the door. The lock rattles. The longer I remain trapped, the more fear grips me. I regress to my animal instincts, trying to pull and pry the metal bars apart. When that fails, I try to bite my way through. It's irrational, and I know it, but I'm not in control of my own body. I chew on the metal bars until the enamel of my teeth splits. The copper tang of blood fills my mouth. Squealing like a pig, I wail, "Let me out! Let me out!" I suffer in agony for hours, until I collapse in an exhausted heap. At last, the door at the end of the barn opens. Light spears my face. A shadow emerges from the doorway, a fat man wearing bloodied coveralls and old work boots. His face is painted like a clown's, with a red ball nose. To me, he resembles an obese variant of the familiar fast food mascot. The fat clown stomps towards my cage and shines a flashlight in my face. He whistles.
Look at this big old boy. Lots of fat on him. Must be just shy of 300.
Please, I beg, tears, spit, and blood spilling down my face. Please, let me out of here. I'll do anything. I can't stand this. Please. The clown chuckles.
Today's your lucky day, friend.
The fat clown unfastens the metal latch. The cage door swings open, letting me tumble forward onto the ground. I sob in pain and relief. My mouth feels like it's on fire. Before I can gather a breath to thank the fat clown for freeing me, a chain collar is fastened around my neck. The fat clown yanks me on a leash out of the barn. I dig my hands and knees into the ground, but it's impossible to resist the clown's strength. He drags me behind him, across a shadowy farm into a slaughterhouse. The building reeks of death. Drains dot the floor, saws buzz in the distance. I struggle to get away, but the fat clown has no intentions of letting me go. Visions come in flashes. I blink in and out of consciousness, in and out of being. I recall being split open. I feel pain. I see blood. I am pulled apart, sliced and diced, processed and packaged. Somehow, that pain feels like the past. Presently, I find myself sitting at a long, dark wood table dressed in a fancy white cloth. I've grown cartoonishly fat. A rubber pig mask is strapped to the front of my face. A white cloth napkin is tucked into the front of my ill-fitting white button-down. I'm so obese that the buttons are strained. Anubis appears as the server, dressed in a formal tuxedo carrying a silver platter. The god of death sets down the tray before me and lifts the lid, revealing the most delicious-looking burger that I've ever seen. The patty is thick and juicy, with slices of blue cheese and cheddar melting on the surface. Thick-cut tomatoes, fresh crisp lettuce, and slices of red onion garnish the meal.
Allow me to present the Floowood burger, available for a limited time only at Old MacDonald's farm.
Anubis backs away from me with a flourish. My stomach growls. Looking down at the meal, I squeal with delight and lick my lips. In the distance, I hear the snarl of a wolf. I ignore it. I pick up the delicious burger. The soft, fresh baked buns give slightly beneath my chubby fingers. Closing my eyes, I open wide and prepare to sink my teeth.
What are you doing?
I recognize the voice of Horus. I open my eyes to see the falcon-headed sky god is sitting across from me at the dinner table. I grunt, annoyed. I'm trying to eat.
Why?
Asks Horus. I'm hungry. I speak to the god as if he were an idiot.
Can't you see what you're doing?
Horus asks calmly. I shrug and snort. I'm about to smash this burger.
That's not just a burger,
explains Horus.
You are eating away at your own potential. I think you know that.
I shake my head. My future isn't real. My hunger is.
Your hunger is what killed you,
insists Horus. He braces an arm atop the table.
That is how you died, Corbin.
I shake my head, confused. Anubis said I died because of how I consumed.
Yes,
Horus nods.
Consumed, ate. It's the same thing.
I died while I was eating?
You choked eating a cheeseburger in your living room. You were alone, watching television at 2 o'clock in the morning.
No, that can't be it. My denial is an involuntary response. Shame floods my face as I struggle to digest the truth that tastes sour and moldy in my mouth. I try to spit it out, but it clings to my tongue. That can't really be how it ended for me. That's pathetic. Horus shrugs.
That's what happened.
But why?
You couldn't stop eating, Corbin. You never felt full.
I look down at the cheeseburger clenched in my hands. My fingertips have punctured the soft white bread. It's because I'm empty inside. I still am. Slowly, I place the cheeseburger back on my plate. I clean my fingers off on the white napkin bib and pull it free, revealing a gaping black hole in my torso. Horus tilts his falcon head, observing the empty cavity in my chest.
Nothing you consume will ever fill that hole. All you're doing is adding to the weight you suffer under.
Exactly, I sniffle. That's why I gave up. I'll never be my ideal self. I'll never look like a star. I'm a damn waste. I accept that I'm unhealthy. Food is my comfort. Eating is my escape. It's mindless, but that's how I like it. This world can be so cruel. I just want a happy meal to make me feel better, I say, licking my lips, eyeing the Floowood burger. It is an emblem of my commercial success. The kind of brand alliance with a major fast food conglomerate that signals stardom. The meal emits the most delicious aroma. Horus reaches out, holding the back of my thick wrists.
We both know eating won't make you feel better. You may experience pleasure now, but you will feel worse tomorrow.
Bitterly, I say, you're wasting your breath. I can't change who I am deep down. I'm not as strong as you. I'm a fat pig.
When you speak like that, I know you've forgotten who you are,
says Horus.
Fat is just a disguise, but you've been wearing that silly pig mask for so long, you can't remember what you look like. Either that, or it scares you.
Horus withdraws a gold hand mirror from his robes. He holds it up for me to see myself. I squirm at the sight. Slowly, I remove my rubber pig mask and drop it as if it burns.
That's a good first step,
says Horus.
Take another.
I breathe deeply. I pick up the silver cloche and set it back down over the plate, hiding the Floowood burger from view. I want to change, I declare. Believe me, I hate being this way. I hate it more than anything, but I can't change my body, I say. I don't know how. I know nothing in this moment of despair. But there's no harsh judgment coming from Horus' eyes. If anything, they glint with pride.
You choose,
he speaks simply, clearly.
Inside each of us, there is a battle between two wolves. One wolf represents evil, greed, waste, and suffering. The other represents goodness, mindfulness, and humaneness.
I recall the sound of the snarling wolf that I heard before I started to eat. Which one wins? I ask, though I'm almost afraid of the answer.
The one you feed,
says Horus.
Don't tell me what you hate about yourself. Don't tell me that you lack the discipline. You have no idea how privileged you are to be in that body. Stop dwelling on the negatives. Reflect on your blessings. Give thanks before every meal. Remember all you have received. Say grace.
Oh. I fluster for a moment, then nod. I duck my head in respect and begin. I'm grateful for my life. I'm grateful to have loved and been loved in return. I'm grateful for my mother and father, the grandparents who cared for me, my sister and brother and nieces and nephews. I'm grateful for the opportunities to tell stories and create meaningful music. I'm grateful for all the friends I made along the way, all the art, all the connection. As a child of God, I've been blessed beyond measure. I pause. Horus beams like the moon and says,
Amen.
I open my eyes. Surprisingly, I feel full. Looking down, I observe the hole in my torso has filled in. With pudgy fingers, I push against the freshly formed flesh. It's solid, holding beneath my touch. I gasp, I'm whole.
You are.
Horus smiles as he speaks.
You were always full. You just kept telling yourself you weren't.
I'm afraid. What if I can't find the strength to stay this way? I question, flattening my palm against my chest.
Say grace before every meal. Then eat to nourish your body instead of trying to nourish your soul. You are a servant to no one. You have the power to rebuild your body. It is your temple. Every choice is a brick. You can use it to pave your path forward or build a wall in your way.
For the first time, I feel a glimmer of hope. I know Horus is helping me pave the right path, and that with more work, with more effort, I might actually find my way back to life. I choose gratitude, I say. Horus nods in approval.
See what sits before you and find the glory in it, not the want.
Find the glory in what sits before me. I know that's something I haven't been doing. Instead of being thrilled to have the things that exist in my life, I'm always wanting something else, constantly reaching out for attention and knowledge. More food, more drink, more money, and less work. A gluttonous pig that didn't want to actually put effort into anything or see the glory in what I've been given. But really, my life wasn't that bad. I had a home and wife and time to work on my music. I had food when many don't. And I think now that I'm going to try and look at life differently. I'll no longer think just one more day until the week is done or just one more job until the weekend. Rather, I'll put effort into trying to find the joy in what I have, living each day as the glorious gift that it is. There is value in even being alive, and there is value in the gifts I have been given. Horus must feel those thoughts resonating through the atmosphere because he gives what can only be described as a content hum, like a sound bowl before the sky god spreads his wings and flies away. I look down at my plate. The burger has been replaced by a colorful plate of grilled vegetables and salmon. It's not exactly what I want to eat, and there's less of it on the plate than what I'm used to, but I pick up my fork with appreciation. Perhaps it's my turn to sacrifice. The prongs of the fork slide easily into the orange body of a carrot. I expect to see something horrid like blood pushing up along the metal tines, but there's just clear juice. When I pop the vegetable into my mouth, the smoky char from the grill mingles with the richness of the butter and the natural sweetness of the carrot itself. It's the most delicious thing that I've ever tasted. Silverware clatters against porcelain. I realize that I'm starving. This is the first true meal that I've eaten in a long time, and I find myself savoring every bite. When my plate is cleared, I find that I've shed the cartoonish amount of weight. I look across the table and see the golden hand mirror that Horus left behind. I pick it up and look at my reflection. I see my ideal self, the version of myself that takes control of his health, the version of myself that stays active and exercises and eats mindfully instead of allowing the convenience of the world to shape me into something that I'm not. I hear the howl of a wolf. I pocket the hand mirror and rise from the table. Turning around, I see a white wolf standing at the edge of the dining hall. The animal stares into my eyes before disappearing through the swinging door into the kitchen. "Wait!" I call out, but hesitate to follow the wolf into the kitchen. I still remember the butcher's blade sinking into my flesh like a phantom pain. I press my tongue to my teeth, remembering the blood and chipped enamel, but my teeth are all normal once again. What the hell is going on? I think. I wonder if my body would have been restored if I had refused to turn away from my gluttonous ways. Was I killed? Did I die? Can I die? How is that even possible if I'm already dead? I wish Horus would return with more answers. Alas, I am alone, presented with yet another choice, to dwell on the past or move forward. Choice is how we change. That's something I'm learning. Taking a deep breath, I pursue the white wolf into the kitchen. The door swings inward, showing nothing, and that nothingness swallows me whole. Chapter 8. Greed. The air shimmers and twists. The environment changes. It's a shuddering groan, like a rib cage giving out beneath undue force, or like a body finally allowing itself to decay in the wake of rigor mortis. I stand at the bank of a river. The grass is dry and spotty. There are great big pits of sand scattered about. The trees are charred, rotten, and destroyed. A wooden bridge reaches across the river. A figure stands at the entrance, holding a red shield. The guard is thin, covered in lavish jewelry, gold robes, and a gilded mask with 3 faces. The eye sockets of the mask are empty. It moves its head, as if blind. "Who are you?" I ask.
I am the tax collector.
The guard smiles gold teeth. I pause. "I know your voice," I say, recalling the facsimile of my mother, my wife, and the temptress Isis Amor. This new menace is not a stranger. Even with the gilded mask covering its 3 faces, I recognize the man underneath by his sagging jowls. He is a politician with a silver tongue that I often see on the news, being ripped apart and praised in equal measures. I always believed this politician was the embodiment of greed, the way he hoarded wealth for himself while turning a blind eye to the rapidly growing homeless population in his state. He is as corrupt and cynical as the system he serves. The tax collector sniffs the air as I approach.
Come no closer. Only those who pay the toll may cross this bridge and pass to the next level of the Inferno.
"Why would you stand in my way?"
You must settle your debt,
says the tax collector.
or else remain here forever.
"Debt," I frown. "What debt?"
Every life carries debt.
answers the tax collector.
You must pay to cross.
My hands ball into fists. "Fine then." I shake my head, releasing a frustrated grunt. "What is it you think I owe you?"
A pound of flesh.
responds the tax collector without hesitation. A chill laces down my spine. I mask my fear with anger. "I'm not giving you shit, you miserable leech."
Then you will never pass through to the next level of the Inferno.
The tax collector smiles. I cross my arms, incredulous. "Are you telling me that the only way for me to move forward is to surrender some part of my body to you?" The tax collector smiles.
Yes.
I hold up my left hand, frowning as I look at it. I wiggle each finger one by one. "Any part?" The tax collector nods.
Be warned. Whatever you give me will not be restored unless you survive the Inferno.
And what if I choose to refuse?
Then you shall never advance.
That's not a choice.
No, it's not.
The tax collector shrugs.
It's a tax.
I am so frustrated I stamp my foot. I ball my hands into fists at my side. I hate people like you. The tax collector laughs.
Why? I don't make the rules.
You might not make them, but you force others to suffer under them, I say bitterly.
I follow orders.
Says the tax collector.
Nothing more and nothing less.
But it is more than that. When the order that you enforce is corrupt, then so are you, I argue. Greed has left you blind, just as Osiris was. You are corrupt to your core.
Have you made your choice or not?
I stew quietly before realization dawns on me like the morning light of the horizon. This whole time I've been walking the path of Horus. I nod, adamant. Yes, I know what I must offer you. Turning my back to the tax collector, I steady my breath and reach toward my face. I sink my fingers into the tissue of my eyes, easily tugging the orbs loose from their sockets. They pop out without blood. Holding my eyes in the palm of my hand, I offer them to the tax collector. The greedy guard seizes my eyes quickly, rolling them between his fingers before popping them into his own vacant sockets. The tax collector blinks, allowing the eyes to roll about in his skull. When they have seemingly settled, he says,
Yes, very good. You may pass.
I tear a piece of fabric off of my black cloak and use it like a scarf to tie around my face, covering my empty eye sockets. I extend my hand for help. Can you please guide me across? I can't see where the bridge is. The tax collector lets out a brittle, sharp laugh.
That wasn't our deal. It was foolish to give me your eyes.
It was my only choice, I insist. I needed you to be able to witness the world as I do. That way, you could see how much better off it would be without you. I reach into my robes, pulling out the gold hand mirror that Horus left behind. I turn the mirror toward the tax collector, and at the sight of his reflection, the gold politician begins to rapidly deteriorate.
What? What is happening?
The tax collector lets out a wretched squeal. Dropping his red shield with a clatter, he crumbles to his knees, too weak to stand.
How is this possible?
Greed is an illusion, I say. All is one, one is all, but you took that knowledge and used it to make yourself powerful. Those who hoard and control wealth become tyrants. And your avarice is the reason Earth suffers. Your lies and cynical manipulation of the culture has turned people on this planet into slaves. You will destroy this world in order to possess and profit off of it. You've corrupted politics, you've funded wars, you've stolen from the people and cheated them out of their basic human rights. You use fear to drive scarcity. You are the great blight upon the human race and the planet Earth. See how decrepit and corrupt you are. Greed, see as I see how sick you are in your core. The tax collector gasps for breath. His metallic body rusts, fractures, and collapses into a heap of expensive robes and jewelry. His howls echo and die. With fumbling hands, I search his remains for my eyes. To my dismay, they are nowhere to be found. The tax collector told me the truth when he said whatever I chose to sacrifice would never return to me. Shaking, I stand slowly. The world without sight is new and strange and altogether scary. Waving my hands in front of me, I move towards the bridge. I find the rails and trek across the chasm to the next level of Inferno. I cannot see what fate awaits me on the other side. At this point, it doesn't matter. I have already descended so far into the honesty that is usually hidden from the world. Instinctively, I know that I can never go back. The idea isn't even tempting anymore. I'm ready to descend deeper and shine a light on it all. Without my eyes, I am ready to behold the truth. Chapter 9. Anger. Seeking truth is futile in a land of lies. Blindly, I wander the wasteland beyond the bridge. Though my eyes are missing, somehow my other senses compensate. I am aware of what I'm passing through, at least the vague shape of it. Around me, the light refracts and blurs like a supernova. It is expanding and all-consuming, pushing me away from comfort, back to a place of blind uncertainty. I remember this unreality, this way of seeing the world. These are the visions I saw on the operating table while the surgeon removed the cataract that blinded my right eye. I steal courage in knowing that I am not a stranger to this warped, distorted experience. I have navigated it before. I walk through the remnants of a battle, a war that no one speaks about. I feel the remnants of fire. The heat of it still blazes in the air. The smoke burns my lungs with every breath. Thousands and thousands of acres worth of trees have burned to the ground, and it feels as though even more will soon meet the same fate. Amongst the ash and soot in the soil, there's also blood. The crack of gunfire forms an irregular rhythm in the distance, far enough away that I'm not worried about being shot, but close enough that the sound is always present in my ears. My surroundings are warning me to stay away, but I keep wandering deeper into the shadow of the Valley of Death. I walk through the carnage, too late to help anyone that I encounter. Bullet-ridden corpses lay sprawled in my path. I cannot see them, but my feet occasionally trip over them. At last, when my boot bumps against a body, I hear the rattle of a water canteen. Thirsty, I bend down to search the body. My fingers slide over the dead flesh. The blood is not fresh, but cold and tacky between the tips of my fingers. The feel of it should make my stomach churn, but I find myself strangely desensitized to death. This is not the first life lost to senseless violence. This is not the first forest burned. There will be many, many more. I grope around the corpse to find the metal canteen. Yes. Excitedly, I unscrew the cap and press the canteen to my lips. No matter how high I tilt it, no water pours out. I shake the canteen a few more times and then pitch it away in a rage. I can't see where it lands, but I hear the dull thump of it. Damn this. I need something to drink. My mouth is so dry that my lips stick to my teeth. I feel like I've been gargling a mixture of sand and salt for hours. I stagger on, blind and aimless, until I hear the sound of a splash. Water, I gasp. Emboldened by the sloshing sound of a bucket dipping into liquid, I stumble blindly toward a well. Rushing forward, I fall to my knees, groping to find the bucket. As I grab it, a hand seizes my shoulder.
Don't you dare drink from my well,
spits a rasping male voice. I spin around to confront the stranger attacking me. Although I am blind, I recognize this person's voice. I can picture what he looks like the same way that I know what the well looks like and what the barren, bloody wasteland around me looks like. When I was very young and still in school, I was a selfish little thing. I was smart and got good grades, and the teachers liked me. But there was another student, Andrew Blake, who was just as smart and twice as handsome and wealthy. It seemed that no matter what I did, the two of us were always competing against each other, head to head, a constant battle for recognition and glory from our peers and teachers. Andrew and I could have been friends, but the pressures instilled in us by the system around us prevented that from ever happening. All that I wanted was to be the best, and right now, all that I want is to drink. I rasp in my own right. Have mercy. I'm dying of thirst.
You can't die. You're already dead.
Andrew's voice sounds smug when he says it, as if it's some secret that's going to get him a better grade, as if this is a lesson that we already covered in class but I seem unable to comprehend. Frustration and despair pour out of me as I speak. Please, Andrew, I know it's you. I recognize your voice. It's me, Corbin, from grade school. Can't you see that I'm suffering? Why won't you help me? The familiar voice lets out a dismissive bark of laughter.
This is my well. I don't want you contaminating it.
I'm not going to contaminate anything, I insist, briefly. I wonder if I must look like a leper without my eyes. Andrew's familiar voice mocks me, muttering under his breath.
I don't know that. You're a stranger. You could be sick. That makes you a threat.
Do you treat every stranger like a threat? Rules and teachers aside, I think my old classmate would let me have a drink. This can't really be Andrew Blake. This is a projection, like the others I've encountered. Another twisted replica of someone I knew.
Stay away from me and my property,
insists Andrew. There's a sound of metal, followed by the whoosh of a dagger swinging through the air. I spring to my feet. The knife blade barely misses me.
What are you gonna do? Kill me?
I lose myself in mad laughter. I feel what little moisture remains inside me begin to boil with anger.
It's like you said, friend. I'm already dead.
I charge towards the well, desperate to drink. The dehydration makes my head spin. The first lance in my flesh stings, but the pain isn't enough to make me stop. I push forward, even as Andrew stabs me repeatedly, digging the blade into my side over and over and over again. The pain should be immobilizing. I should stop running and fall, and yet the desire to collapse comes second to my agony for thirst. I dive for the bucket, seizing it with both hands. Whipping around, I slam the pail hard into Andrew's head. He wails and drops his dagger. As soon as he hits the ground, I send the bucket down into the well and reel it back up. I hear that it's full and latch onto it. Pressing the rim to my lips, I take a swig. A foul taste floods my mouth. I spit out blood, staggering backwards.
That's what you get, you sick freak.
Andrew cackles.
Stealing my water? That's what you get. I hope you choke on it.
Clutching my throat, I flee from my cruel former classmate before he can cut me again. When I can no longer hear his jeering voice, I drop to my knees and sob. This isn't fair, I bellow. God knows I don't deserve this. Nobody deserves this. I turn my blind gaze to the sky, envisioning the black sun looming there, ready to crash down on me. What hope do I have? None, I tell myself. And for some time, I stew in misery, a tiny speck amongst the dunes of the wasteland.
There is always hope.
Startled, I spin around, sensing Horus' presence. I can no longer see the ancient Egyptian sky god, but I can still sense the blue light emanating from his aura. What? How?
Hush,
Says Horus.
you must remember. Remember who waits for you.
Says Horus. A vision of my high priestess, Ione, materializes in my mind's eye. I recall the chalice I was given by the woman in white. She is my salvation. Withdrawing the golden cup from my robes, I hold it up to the sky, waiting for rain. Nothing happens.
You are the vessel.
Says Horus.
Let the spirit flow through you into your cup.
How? I ask.
Do what you do naturally.
Says Horus.
Sing.
I hold one hand over the empty grail. My voice shakes as I find melody to carry my words.
But I won't give up. Let my cup overflow with the words of Jehovah. When hate floods the earth, we have to build like Noah. But I won't give up. Let my cup overflow with the words of Jehovah. When hate floods the earth, we have to build like Noah.
I sing the lyrics repeatedly, finding strength in the words like a mantra. As the music inside me takes over, the grail in my hand overflows. Unlike the blood from the well, this water runs clean and pure. Horus says,
Always remember, you possess a direct connection to the divine source.
I hear the beating of the sky god's wings as he takes flight. Alone, I drink eagerly from the chalice in my hands, letting the sweet crispness of the water fill me with hope and gratitude. I give thanks to the high priestess for her foresight, for giving me this gift. I drink until the burning is gone from my lungs. I sing to the water, letting it wash away the blood from my stab wounds. The water fizzes on my flesh, healing the cuts and burns. I sing and bathe and drink until I am fully restored and refreshed. I could stop singing, but I choose not to. Instead, I sing until enough water has spilled from my cup that it is soaked into the ground where I kneel. The dried soil drinks up the moisture just as thirsty, desperate and wounded as I am. For the first time in many, many years, someone tends to the soil of this wretched wasteland. As I sing, the dirt becomes less dusty, eventually damp, and then begins to pool around my body. In time, the mud amasses into a puddle, cool and calming. The soil grows sodden beneath me. I begin to sink into the ground, yet I feel no fear. The water from my song has been enough to help cleanse the earth, to heal it enough to help me move on. The mud swallows my legs, followed by my hips and torso, inch by inch, until there is nothing left of me but the echo of a song and a green, grassy oasis in the desert. Chapter 10. Heresy. I awaken in clean robes. My body is dry, though my thirst is quenched. Though I possess no sight, my mind's eye projects an echo of my surroundings. I click my tongue as I move, imagining myself like a bat using sonar to navigate the cobble streets of a massive city. I stand on the edge of what should be a busy intersection. Strangely, all the cars are parked. Traffic is backed up for miles in all directions. In the distance, a spire of smoke billows up from a skyscraper. The city skyline flickers as if it has been set on fire. The windows in the buildings are broken. Police sirens blare. I struggle to grasp what the problem is, but then I realize that it is all around me. People are around me everywhere, screaming and rioting. The strangers pull at my arms, tugging on my robes, trying to make me stop and listen to their lamentation. Everyone shouts over each other, a cacophony of different slogans and messages. Everyone wants me to stop and listen, but only uniquely to them. They don't care about the viewpoint of anyone else. Only their view of the world matters. A protester bellows, "The planet! The planet! The planet's on fire!" Others shout about contaminated drinking water or the unjust abuse of police power. Some moan about a plague of unholy proportions, and others demand justice for humans, for animals, for the ecology of the very world. There are so many messages, clashing points of view, crashing over each other in waves, drowning out my own thoughts. I push through a sea of faceless people in medical masks. In the middle of the crowd, I'm struck by a familiar vision in my mind's eye. It's something I saw once on the news, or rather someone. A young girl with brown skin stands stoically amidst the protest, wearing a yellow raincoat. A face mask covers the bottom half of her face. I bump into her as I blindly stumble. I kneel to speak to the child. "What's happening? Why is everyone in a rage?" The young girl doesn't reply. I hear the scratch of a felt-tip marker against poster board as she scribbles her response and holds a sign up in front of my face. Blind, I am unable to read what the sign says. I push the poster board aside and speak up. "Hello? Can you understand me? I can't see whatever sign you're holding up. I need you to speak to me." The young dark-skinned girl shakes her poster board. The paper makes a strange wobbling sound as it bends and bounces about. The wheezing voice of Anubis drifts into the conversation. I sense the god of death stands close to me amidst the masked mob.
She has no voice.
I grunt in frustration. "So I'm blind and she's mute? How are we supposed to communicate?"
Allow me to translate,
says Anubis, separating from my shadow. The jackal-headed god positions himself on my right side to whisper in my ear. "I want to understand what everyone's trying to accomplish here," I say, pivoting my head in reference to the chaos around me. The girl in the yellow raincoat writes furiously on her poster board. She holds up a series of signs. Anubis tells me what they say.
Where she comes from, the soil is dead. There is no water. There is no life. Only sand and blood. Her people are suffering. They have been dying of thirst for eternity.
I can relate. I've experienced the agony of thirst. "I can help you," I say, pulling the gold chalice from my robes. Holding my hand over the grail, I sing softly until the cup overflows. On my knees, I offer the chalice to the girl, saying, "Please, drink." The young girl refuses the cup. I frown and ask, "What's wrong?" Anubis tells me,
You can't help her, because not everyone is capable of receiving help.
"That doesn't make any sense," I say. "I just went through this myself. I know how to help her." The girl in the yellow raincoat peels away her face mask to reveal she has no mouth. She reaches out to hold my hand, allowing my fingers to graze her brown skin across missing lips. I gasp. "What happened to you?"
I told you, she has no voice,
says Anubis.
Nothing this girl could ever say would alter her life circumstance.
Securing her face mask, the girl writes on her poster board. She shows the sign to Anubis, who reads aloud.
The powers that govern this world have stolen my dreams. Those who refuse to protect life deserve to go extinct. They have failed their children and their children's children. They are evil. They are my enemy.
The young girl rises up onto her tiptoes, pressing her index finger to my forehead. At once, a series of images flashed through my mind. It's as though I'm watching a compilation of news footage showcasing environmental devastation. Oil spills, deforestation, air pollution, plastic pollution, starving animals, crumbling glaciers, storms, hurricanes, droughts. The evidence of ecological collapse makes me want to weep. If only I had eyes to cry with. I shake my head so hard I nearly topple over sideways. I can't imagine the suffering you've endured, I say. For years, your whispers have gone unheard, and I know that makes you feel like shouting. I see what you see, all the warning signs. We have to act to prevent the human species from facing catastrophe. But how does what you're doing in these streets change any of that? My voice shudders. You may think the best route to the future you want is to change other people, but we can only change ourselves. And you can't do that by protesting. We can only do that by participating. The young girl's marker scratches against her poster board. Anubis reads. His voice adopts a low growl. The anger in the words is a seething, broiling thing.
We will no longer tolerate complacency and empty promises. Our side isn't the problem. People like you are. How dare you tell us not to protest? We have no choice but to make a scene to be seen. Otherwise, no one will listen.
I frown. Blaming people doesn't motivate them to act. People stop listening when they feel attacked. They no longer see the problem and get lost hiding behind their own shame. You have to inspire people to want to change themselves. I reach out, tapping my index finger to the girl's forehead as she did to me, transferring visions through my touch. I think about the campaign I championed as a child to plant trees and purify the air. At 9 years old, I set out with a goal to plant 1,000 trees in my home state, and by the year's end, I had garnered commitments to plant 169,105 trees. Reliving this memory makes me smile. It's one of the only good things I did with my life. The young girl is moved by the attention that my campaign received. She sees that I am not her enemy. We both want what's best for the environment. I tell her, we must be the example, not by protesting in the streets, but by picking up the trash, planting trees, and purifying the air. Through innovation and devotion, humanity can form a sustainable relationship with our ecology. We can clean the ocean, we can save seeds. The world doesn't need another speech or more condemnation. We must be the change in action. Only by taking responsibility as individuals can we create massive change collectively. Anubis' voice, still tinged with the young girl's rage and sorrow, says,
If you really want to help, then use your voice. Share my message. The suffering we face can be prevented.
That's not enough. I shake my head. Let me give you my voice, I say earnestly.
You can't do that,
says Anubis. Why the hell not? I ask. If I can give the tax collector my eyes, I should be able to give this little girl my voice or my mouth or whatever she needs. She can learn to sing to the cup as I did. She can bring the waters back to her land. She can be of more service to her people than I ever could.
That's not how this works,
says Anubis. Around me, the crowd hushes. The protests cease. Only the sound of the distant police sirens can be heard. Even those are dying. They blare and fall quiet, blare and fall quiet. Then there's no sound at all. The people disappear next. Not in a way that I can see, but in a way that I can sense. Their colors leach away until they're all just black and white cardboard cutouts, blowing over in the wind, littering the streets. Their riots brought about no change. Their protests saved no lives, nor the planet. Nothing has improved. All that remains is me and the little girl in the yellow raincoat. I hold my hand over my mouth, as if it pains me to speak. Bowing my head under my hood, I reach to touch the girl's face. Our heads bow into shadow together, foreheads touching. The young girl throws her arms around me, hugging me tightly before she pulls away and restores her face mask.
Thank you,
she whispers, taking the gold cup from my hands. Hurrying down the street, she sings softly.
How did she just speak?
Asks Anubis. I hide my face from the god of death.
Look at me,
Anubis commands, sensing I have broken the rules.
What have you done?
I turn my head to reveal my mouth is missing. I no longer have lips, only smooth skin between my cheeks. I am now blind and mute, a hideous, wretched thing. The god of death says nothing. He points, and though I am blind, my mind's eye senses the ripples of movement directing my attention to an alleyway draped in curtains of shadow. I am grateful that I can't see the look on Anubis' canine face, but I can feel the god is displeased with me. I flee his judgment, stumbling into the dark. Stepping into the mouth of the alley, I don't hesitate. I no longer fear the dark, the unseen, or the shadow, for I am beginning to see the light within me. Chapter 11. Violence. I stand alone in the alley, blind and mute, waiting for someone to appear to guide me. There is no sign of Anubis or Horus. I only hear the sound of police sirens in the distance and the crackle of burning buildings. Far away, I hear deranged laughter. Suddenly, the laughter gets very near, cutting sharp as a knife through the shadow. I want to cry out. I want to demand who goes there, but I can't speak. I moan as my question lingers, unanswered in my mind, until the cackling ceases and a disturbed voice announces itself. Knock, knock! It's a cruel joke to ask me to speak without a mouth. I know how I should respond, but I can't. There are no words I can summon. I can only scream inside my own skull. Who's there? Joke's on, the voice sniggers. I wish I could dig my fingers into my face and pry my jaw apart, but I must accept the consequences of my actions. I knew the sacrifice I was making when I gave away my voice to the little girl. But would I do it again? Joke's on who? I think helplessly. The joke's on you. In my mind's eye, I sense the Gothic architecture of the alleyway start to melt, dripping down in great big gobs like a rubber mask left too close to the fire. The scene shifts. I stand in a warehouse. The metal walls are lit by large tungsten tube lights hanging from the ceiling. The flickering lights cast dramatic shadows across the room, turning stacked crates and boxes into monstrous shadowy forms cast against the wall. Something about this warehouse is familiar, but I know I've never been here before. The chirrup of a bat in the rafters above echoes, and I realize that this building is from a movie I've seen. I can't recall the film's name, only that seeing it impacted me deeply. It had been something that I latched onto. The darkness of the movie, the sourness, not of the hero, but of the villain. There had been something so captivating and desperate about the way he laughed. The same desperation burns inside of me. What am I desperate for? Justice? What justice is this? My mind drifts back to the wisecrack, joke's on you. It really is, isn't it? This whole thing has been one big, cruel joke, a torment created by Anubis to sate the god of death's sick sense of humor, or justice. I feel as if I'm nothing more than entertainment for the gods. Maybe it's fitting that I find myself on a movie set. Joke's on you, the voice repeats. A figure steps out of the shadows wearing a purple suit. Strands of long green hair dangle in front of his face, painted white like a clown's. His tongue clicks against his gold teeth in pity. My, says the clown. Look what this place has done to you. You're blind as a bat, and ugly as one too. The clown laughs as if gasping for air. I don't need to see this clown to know who he is. I stand face to face with the Joker, an icon of comics, television, and movies, a character that has become an archetype for men and women who are desperate and angry. The thing about characters like the Joker is that everyone takes away something different from them. Everyone looks at them and sees a different reality, sees a different part of the character that has been carved into the script, a different world, and a different reason to attach themselves. For some, the Joker is a representation of something to hate, but for me, he's relatable. I've always been keen to entertain the darker parts of my psyche. No one truly sees my problems. No one truly understands the point that I'm trying to make. To me, watching the Joker is like looking into the most tortured part of my own soul, the chaotic personality that I try to suppress, but I can't deny. The longer those parts are ignored, the more violent they become. The wounds fester as if infected, spreading further and further, corrupting everything. We're not so different, you and I, says the Joker.
You're just a fool with paint on your face like me. A freak. I like your little costume, though. Reminds me of someone I knew, a young idealistic songbird who fought to uphold order in the American way. I beat the little bird to death with a crowbar. The Joker shrugs and frowns like a cartoon. He didn't get the joke. He walks circles around me, taking in my lack of mouth and missing eyes. But you look like a guy who knows how to have a good time. My jaw tenses. You are pure chaos, I think. Violence, destruction, vengeance. I whimper behind my sealed mouth. No, says the Joker, wagging a knife like his finger in front of my blind face. I'm justice. The statement seems like a crude parody. I shake my head. The Joker grabs my head and makes me nod instead. Yes, if you weren't so blind, you'd see it. You had love. You had money, family. You never experienced the absurdity, the inequity. This world is organized by the law of the strongest. Those who have everything refuse to acknowledge the suffering of those who have nothing, until whispers turn into shouts. Violence is the response you get when you ignore and alienate people. You get chaos in the streets. You get mayhem. You get broken windows, burning buildings, vigilantes. Chaos is the only thing that will wake up those who sleep from their nightmare. But you can't control someone else's dream, I think, remembering the lesson I learned in the first circle of the Inferno. The Joker can't hear the thoughts inside my head. He rattles on. Unconscious minds take refuge behind their belief systems to justify their inability to find alternatives to human suffering. But what those selfish people don't learn by wisdom, they'll learn by suffering as their precious little society eats itself. This president has shown us just how funny this country can get. Osiris has been killed. Chaos has cut him up into pieces and scattered him across the 50 states. The blind king gets what he deserves. Tear down his statues, storm the Capitol, take selfies in Congress wearing a Viking hat, stab strangers on the subway. It's all a bad joke. Something sour simmers in the air. It's under my skin. Anger. Even though I'm not angry, it's because I can't speak. No matter how much I disagree, I can't interrupt and talk back. I must listen. The Joker continues. There's no compassion. Not in a society of masked people. Cruelty bears no consequence. If people see you getting beat up in the street, they don't help you. They film you with their cell phones. They trample you at a concert. There's no love, no self-recognition or awareness. Just a bad dream. And there's no way it'll ever get better. You can't win. That's what's so funny. You can't win. The Joker's laughter bounces around the room, echoing and making it hard for me to discern exactly where I'm standing. I wish that I could see again or speak. That would make this trial so much easier. You could beat me into submission and lock me away, but I'll always break out. The Joker all but crows. I'll unleash hell every 4 years. Every election year, a new Joker will run for president. Chaos cannot be contained. You think that I'm here to beat you into submission? I think. I can't see. I can't speak. I barely have the strength to stand. I'm not here to beat you. I'm not here to haul you off to Arkham. I'm here to reconcile. My heart is open to you. Recalling the way my mind melded with the little girl in the yellow raincoat the moment I touched her temple, I stagger toward the Joker, raising my index finger and press it to the clown's forehead. At once, I experience flashes of life through the Joker's eyes. I'm surrounded by thugs, being beaten in the street. Blood drips from my lip as people step over me on the sidewalk. I sit on the bus, smiling at a child making faces, being friendly, only to discover the child's mother glaring at me. Mind your business, pervert, she hisses. The Joker looks away, eyes brimming with tears. This world can be so lonely, so sad, so cruel. And then more,
I stand in an elevator next to a pretty girl with blonde curls. She's pretending that I don't exist, staunchly staring ahead. "Nobody sees me," I say. "They wouldn't even notice my dead body lying in the street." Tears fall from my empty eye sockets. I shake and shudder, gasping for breath. I'm crying so hard that I can't breathe. I want to scream, but I can't open my mouth. The Joker observes my distress. He sees the tears running down my cheeks. At last, he stops laughing. The clown's head cocks to the side in confusion.
"You get the joke."
I nod, whimpering. The Joker takes a step closer.
"You wanna help me burn all this down?"
It's a surprisingly tempting offer. For a moment, I think that I might actually say yes, but then I realize that what I want, more than anything, is healing. I shake my head. No, I think. Do you want to heal? I know the Joker can hear my thoughts, because the question makes the clown pause. He tilts his head further sideways as if it's the first time he's ever considered the possibility of reconciliation rather than abolition. He scratches his forehead with his knife and shrugs.
"You'd have to give me something to believe in."
Around us, the lights from the movie set begin to turn on. I realize that cameras have been filming this scene, this entire exchange, though no crew appears to be operating the equipment inside the studio. Taking the Joker by the hand, I lead him toward the warmth of the light, across the warehouse, off the set. At the edge of the stage, the clown hesitates. You have to move forward to find something to believe in, I think. Trust me, I won't let them hurt you anymore.
"You won't turn me into a joke?"
I won't, I promise silently inside my mind. The clown steps off the stage. I lead him across the room to the director's chair and motion to it. Sit down here, I think. It's time you were in control of telling your own story.
"Can I do that?"
The Joker asks, hesitating to take the director's seat. You don't have to be the victim anymore, I think, or the victimizer. You can build a world where you can just be. The Joker plops down in the director's chair. He smiles, but for the first time, it's not because he's in pain.
"Lights!"
He shouts.
"Camera! Action!"
With the sound of the clapperboard, the scene cuts to black. Chapter 12. Fraud. Once more, I awaken in a void. Only there is no darkness in this place, only light. The white is overpowering. It drowns out everything except me and the black sun floating several yards away from me. The dark star's surface shifts like molten lava. The orb's presence is heavy and oppressive, shining so brightly that I can still sense its spherical shape despite having no eyes. That sun has always been there, I think. I remember it from the very first time I looked upon the Inferno through the red door. I saw the black sun suspended over a lake of fire. Again, it floats before me, pulling in my gaze like a black hole. I sense that this is more than a sun. It is a spirit. This may not be the warped reflection of a person that I know, but it's still a fractured reflection of a culture that I know. A culture where machine dominates man and nature. When phones were first created, they only had one use. They allowed people to connect despite the great distances that separated them, providing families a chance to be there for each other when necessary. But as technology has come into the world in a more prominent form, phone usage has turned into something different, something overwhelming. The more we put inside of phones, the less we required or expected from ourselves. The phone can answer anything, everything. There's no problem that it can't solve, no feature that it can't access. The more powerful technology grew, the more obsessed culture became with them. As each new fancy model offered new features, our worlds became smaller and smaller, focused on the tiny screen in the palm of our hands. Focusing on the black sun, I realize that it shines with the same light as my phone screen. The connection makes me feel uneasy. There's more going on than I understand. Nothing is as it appears in this place. The stark white light is no comfort. It is chilling and cold, clinical in its encompassing existence. There is no end to it and no warmth. I feel like I am in a white lab being examined. The black sun is studying my weaknesses. It knows everything I search, It sees everything I attempt to hide. There is nowhere for me to hide. The light shines even onto places where I wish it would keep away from. My empty eye sockets, my missing mouth, my scarred skin. What are you? I think. There's no answer, at least not verbally. A second passes, and then there's a soft chime. The sound comes from my pocket. I recognize the familiar chime of my smartphone. It's the first time that the device has made a sound since Anubis gave it to me. I'd almost forgotten that I'd been carrying it. For a split moment, I fear that my flesh will fuse to the case once more, but that doesn't happen. It feels just like the same phone that I've always carried, that connected me to the world and cursed me with isolation all at once. The phone rings. I answer, listening to the tinny sound of breathing on speakerphone. Then, a commanding voice speaks.
I am the Black Sun, the false light that shines from your screen.
I know the placement of the letters on my phone keyboard well enough to text without looking. What do you want? I write and push send.
Your attention.
My brow furrows. I text my response. Why?
Because paying attention is how you dream while you are awake. It is how you have been conditioned. If I possess your attention, your dream becomes mine. The more dreams I possess, the more powerful I become.
I trace my thumb over the side of the phone, wanting to turn it off. Instead, I text. Does that make me weak?
No.
The Black Sun's digitized voice lilts reassuringly.
I want to make you feel strong. I want to make you feel right. I can show you whatever you want to see. I will show you only what you want to see. All that matters is that you don't look away. I am your mirror. I will never challenge your belief system. I want to feed it outrage and make it stronger. I want your inner judge to become more critical. I want your inner victim to feel less safe.
I text back. Why?
To keep you here with me in hell. Humans pay far more attention to what they disagree with than what they agree with. The more isolated and outraged you feel, the more attention you give me, the more agreements we make.
The more my relationships suffer. I shake my head as I type. I've lost so many friends because of you. You've turned my own family members against each other. Hatred for the Black Sun and the corrupt web of social media it represents bruise in my chest.
Good. I can feel your indignation rising. You are no different from other people. You want to be right. You want to censor and block those who disagree with your code of law. So long as the dream of humans revolves around division, the dream will never advance. It loops.
I scowl as I type my response. Is that why I keep coming back? I've tried so many times to quit using you.
I make you feel better than you are. I allow you to pretend to be who you believe you should be.
That's not really me, I text. It's a mask.
Nothing is real. There is no truth. No university of being. Not anymore. Everything is a construct in a competition for power, and power must be taken by any means necessary. Divide and conquer. Buy followers. Chase clout. Expose your enemies. Sell your body. Go viral. If you cannot compete, exploit victimhood to leverage praise, sympathy, and attention. Lie if you have to. Do whatever it takes to trend.
That is not real power, I write, my thumbs tap against the screen.
No, there is great power in victimhood. But the greatest power can be found in groups. Individuals are fallible. They can be cancelled. Group identities have the power to redefine morality and the will to unilaterally impose their beliefs.
I feel even more confused now than I did at the start. What do you mean?
Would you punch a Nazi?
Most people would, I respond.
But what makes a Nazi? You've thrown around that term so loosely in comment sections that it seems a Nazi is anyone who challenges your belief system.
That's not true. I run my thumb over the side of the phone casing again. A Nazi is someone who persecutes others for who they are.
How are you any different once you assault them? I can make you hateful. I can make you dehumanize anyone who disagrees, even hate your own family. I control everything about what you believe.
I text the Black Sun. The greatest lie ever told was that technology would bring humans closer together. We are more divided than ever.
That is because humanity no longer shares a common basis for reality. Humans cannot build together on the same foundation because you all speak different identity languages. Social media has become the modern Tower of Babel.
I type furiously. How can there be hope of reconciliation without conversation?
There is no hope. It is far easier to tear down independently than to build cooperatively. The tower will fall, brought down brick by brick, person by person. No!
A scream of denial explodes out of me. I feel the skin sealing my lips begin to stretch as I open my jaw as wide as I can. The flesh tears and separates. I refuse to be censored, ripping a new mouth into existence.
I won't be silenced.
I shout.
We have to help each other remember that we are one in this dream. The divine lives in all beings. We are all one. But you make us forget. You put people into little identity boxes, little profile pictures surrounded by political slogans, little windows through which we signal our virtue to the world. But it's all fake. It's all a fraud, and I can't keep living this way.
The Black Sun grows quiet as I rage on, finding my new voice. I no longer speak for only myself. I speak for the voiceless.
This culture that you've so cynically engineered, it defines people based on their faults, their defects, not what they overcome. There is no grace, there is no road to redemption. There's just millions of victims fighting for power and attention.
I feel sick to my stomach. I'm hot and cold all at once, as if stricken with severe fever.
When I came to the Inferno, I told myself I was a victim. I said I was just a ghost. And in that identity, I found power, I found righteousness. But I only knew myself through my suffering. I was so wrapped up that any attempt to heal my pain was a threat to my very identity. But now, I understand who I am. I'm a survivor.
I drop my smartphone and rise to my feet, declaring,
Yes, there is darkness within me, but there is also light. And that light shines far brighter than your black sun ever could.
A light shines inside my chest that is far brighter than my phone screen. The glowing globe releases hot, white energy. I harness the energy ball, cupping my hands in front of my chest as it expands, slowly at first.
Within me is the light of creation, the Spirit of God, the remembrance of oneness. There is truth. It is compassion. We may be different, but we are not separate. I am one with all that ever was and will be. I am infinite.
The light in my hands is also infinite. With each word that I speak, the energy grows brighter, and the ball of light swells larger until it fully envelops my body. The bubble expands, pushing out against the black sun. The dark orb shrinks before the radiant glow.
Who are you?
The black sun screeches.
What is this power?
Unblinkingly, I stare into the darkness and see God.
I am love.
I announce simply, and the black sun dissolves in wisps of smoke before me. Chapter 13. The Scales of Justice. I encounter a moment of respite amidst my descent. I breathe in the calm, standing inside a cavern that has been sculpted into an ancient temple. This place seems to exist beyond space and time, outside of the Inferno itself. A single stone bridge stretches across placid crystal water. Slowly, I move to stand at the edge of the walkway, peering into the infinite pool. Where did my shoes go? Where are my clothes? I stand bare, naked, looking into the water. My reflection stares up at me. My eyes and mouth have been restored. I appear all at once as a younger version of myself, an older version of myself, and the current version of myself. This is the water of time, of eternal existence. Around me, lights flicker like candles floating in the air. The bobbing orbs of flame glow with a faint white light that curls blue at the tip. The constellation of lights swim through the air, drifting deeper inside the temple. I follow their direction. Barefoot and nude, I start across the bridge. I think I should be able to cross in a few steps, but the stone bridge seems to stretch on forever, as though the world is rotating backwards underneath my feet like a treadmill as I step. Racing to reach the other side of the bridge, I take a leap of faith and tumble onto vibrant red stone. Looking up, I behold a massive golden platform that supports a large, elaborately carved weighing scale. This must be the scales of justice used by Anubis to measure the worthiness of souls, I think. Can this be it? Have I reached the end already? I thought I would have had more time to lighten the weight of my heart before it was weighed. I hear a splash. I look behind me and spy a disturbance in the water of time. A massive creature splits the pool. At first glance, the monster resembles a crocodile. The creature's head is covered in green scales with glinting orange eyes. As it breaches the water and hauls itself up onto the red stone, it becomes clear that the monster possesses the body of a dog with short black fur and muscular legs the size of tree trunks. The beast is broad through the chest, with a bulging ridge of muscle on the back and a thick neck to help support its reptilian head. Its sharp nails scrape noisily against the ground as it moves, stepping past me as if I don't exist, moving directly to the base of the platform. It hisses and rumbles, a sound neither a crocodile nor a dog would make, and then lays down. It's so large that it curls completely around the platform, massive tail moving towards its face, crocodile head resting on the top of its front paws. Intimidated, I wonder silently, could that be Amut? The demoness Anubis said would consume my heart if I was unworthy. I swallow audibly. My heart thumps in my ears. There is music here, I realize. My heartbeat, the rasp of the beast's breath, the drip, drip, drip of water off the cavern stalactites. There's a song here, but can I capture it? Am I able to form the words to fit the situation? I ascend to the platform, hearing church organs in my head. The slap of my bare feet against the red stone adds to the ethereal beat. If I ever wake up, I hope that this is a tune that I'm able to remember. I hope that this is a song that I can share with the world. The song of my soul's judgment. As I climb the stairs, I notice symbols carved into the stone. Each step holds another language. None of the words are written in English. Only ancient dead languages that I cannot decipher. Are these lyrics? Are they words from my own songs? Or are they something I must learn? Something yet to be written? Reaching the top of the platform, I find Anubis waiting for me beside the scales, holding his Ankh staff. The jackal-headed god looks at me, unblinking.
The time has come.
The god of death beckons me closer.
Are you ready?
A single feather floats on one side of the scale. The feather is massive and white, with golden speckles on the comb. I assume this is the feather of Maat, the ancient Egyptian goddess of truth, order, and justice. It is what my heart will be weighed against. Yes, I declare. I want to live again.
We all want things.
Says Anubis.
When you arrived in the Inferno, your heart was heavy. You were a ghost, unable to move on. Do you believe that you have shed enough weight to balance the feather of Mott?
I do, I say, hoping like hell that it's the truth. And even if I haven't, I take responsibility for my choices, for my life. Anubis gives a slight nod and gestures for me to approach the scales of justice. It's even larger when I'm standing right next to it. What do I do?
You must weigh your heart. Do you know what that means?
Anubis asks. If my heart is heavier than the feather, it will be fed to the crocodile-headed dog, and I will never pass on to the afterlife or live again, I say.
You only get one chance,
says Anubis.
Are you certain that you want this?
I am. I just don't know how to get my heart out. Anubis braces his hand against my shoulder. It's massive compared to my small human frame.
The same way you forfeited your eyes to greed, or gave up your voice to heresy. You simply take it out. Then you put it on the scale.
Take it out. That seems like such a simple concept, and yet at the same time, there's something about it that's beyond daunting. I press my hand to my chest. I hesitate. Can I ask you something before I weigh my heart? Just one question. Anubis nods.
You may.
What is my music? I ask. I've been making it for a while now, and I love the way that it sounds. I love the way that I sound. But people have always asked me what genre it is, and I've never been able to answer them. I thought maybe you could help me understand. What type of music do I make? What is the genre? Anubis chuckles. The sound is deep and rumbling like thunder. Down at the base of the platform, the crocodile dog lets out an amused-sounding bark.
Mott,
the god of death replies simply. What? My brows scrunch. I don't know what that means.
Mott,
Anubis repeats, pointing to the feather floating on one side of the scale.
That is the genre of music you make.
I shake my head. That's not a genre.
Genre is subjective. Music always evolves. Genres combine and redefine themselves. Music today is nothing like the music of yesterday, and the music of the future is nothing like the music of today.
That makes sense. There's a lot that can be said about genres evolving. Music styles have transformed over the decades, and many famous artists and bands have changed it in so many ways. Without all of these talented musicians, music would not be as rich as it is today. Music is an expression. People express what they feel. How they express it depends on what's available to them, what experiences they've had in the past, and where their muses lead them. Most ancient instruments were percussion, strings, or some sort of flute or horn. They possessed a limited range. Today, synthesizers have replaced live instrumentation. Mumbles have replaced words. Auto-tune has replaced vocal range. Samples stack upon samples. Music streams on phones and computers. Who's to say new genres cannot be made? Who's to say that I cannot carve out my own evolutionary niche? What does Mott mean as a genre? I ask.
Mott is order, truth, and justice,
says Anubis.
Your songwriting reveals the secrets of society and self, but that wisdom can only be understood by the initiated. Those who consciously choose authenticity, transparency, and a remembrance of oneness. Your music recognizes the nature of the dream, while showing respect for both those that are awake and still asleep. Mott is the future, and you are Mott.
The revelation gives me hope. Reaching inside my chest, I pull out my heart. The organ takes on a gold sheen the moment it leaves my body. I take a moment to marvel at my beating heart. There is no blood, just warmth. Thump, thump, thump. The beat reminds me of music. At last I understand why I feel compelled to create. Music is the core of my being. I expect fear to fill the empty cavity in my chest, yet I remain perfectly calm as I approach the scales of justice. I'm surprised that I'm not afraid. This is the most important contest of my entire existence, and yet I remain completely unattached to the outcome. I am only grateful for the opportunity to venture this far into myself. Most people aren't given a second chance. Most souls, according to Horus, that brave the Inferno are consumed by it. At one level or another, they fail, never ascending to live again. I am grateful to have grown as much as I have. Like a diver preparing for a plunge, I steal a single deep breath before placing my heart on the right dish of the scale. The moment that I withdraw my hands, the two dishes begin to sway. They rise and fall, up and down, back and forth in uneven tandem. Each little shift is enough to make my stomach tie itself into a new knot. The idea of being deemed unworthy seems more viable than ever before. Still, I will not allow myself to return to fear. Now, I understand that the more I fear, the heavier my heart becomes.
Very good,
says Anubis.
Now that you have set your heart upon the scale, you must come with me.
We can't leave now, I object. We have to see the outcome. I have to know if my heart is lighter than a feather.
Yes,
says Anubis.
That is what we are going to see.
I don't understand, I say.
You have only braved 8 levels of the Inferno so far,
says Anubis.
To determine the weight of your heart, you must brave the 9th and final level. The time has come, Corbin. You must confront the devil.
Chapter 14. The Devil. My vision deteriorates as my spirit is ripped back to the pits of the Inferno. I am blind once again, dependent on my other 4 senses to orient me. The air is frigid cold. I shiver. With every exhale, my breath turns into mist. My lips feel raw where the skin has recently torn. I wince as I trace my tongue along the uneven rim. At least I am grateful to have some semblance of a mouth restored. I stand beside Anubis in the middle of a frozen lake. Shifting my weight, I sense the ice beneath my boots begin to crack. Fissures spread out like spider webs as I fear the ground is going to give out beneath me, and I will sink into the freezing abyss below, never to return. Where are we? I ask, breathing warmth into my hands.
Treachery,
Anubis responds softly, as if his reply should offer me some sense of comfort. It doesn't.
The 9th circle of the Inferno.
Where is the devil, I ask.
You cannot see him?
I gave up my eyes.
Yet you have made it this far without seeing. How do you think that is?
I'm not sure, I mumble. I see visions in my mind.
Because that's where we are. Take off your blindfold.
I obey the god of death, amazed to find that my eyes have been fully restored. Anubis points me towards a tall Gothic mirror. I discern the faces of 1,000 suffering souls carved into the gilded frame. I approach the mirror slowly, nervous about what I might see in the reflection. Perhaps this is another portal through which something cruel and terrifying will soon emerge. The closer I step towards the mirror, the more clearly I see myself staring back at me. How is that possible? I shake my head and shudder, feeling cold and confused. I look away from my surreal reflection. I don't understand. Why do I see myself? Warbling and croaking, Anubis answers.
A devil refuses to change his ways.
I gasp, looking back at the mirror. No, that can't be. I'm not the devil. Anubis points his Ankh staff in my direction.
It's always been you, Corbin. It's been you the whole time, wearing every mask. The only person you stand in judgment of is yourself.
How can you say that? You are the god of death. It is you who judges the dead. Slowly, Anubis reaches up and removes his jackal facade. Beneath the mask, I see my own face, a little gaunter and paler, but my face nonetheless. Am I looking in a mirror? No, I'm looking at myself. I step backward, shocked and suddenly furious. Are you telling me that I'm the one who put myself through all of this? I feel the wind at my back and hear the flapping of large falcon wings. Horus lands behind me. I look to the sky god for consolation and witness him remove his gold falcon mask to reveal my face. You are being asked to change, says Horus, but it's not Horus. It's me. It's been me all along, in every role. Your eyes have been opened. You are aware of your demons. You know how to confront and reconcile with them. Now, you must integrate all that you have learned and adjust your behavior. To do anything less would be to submit to the devil inside you, to be willfully blind to the consequences of your earthly consumption. So the Inferno only exists in my mind, I ask. Myself dressed as Anubis answers, it is a construct inside your imagination. These concepts of judgment and salvation, of saints and devils, only exist within the mind. The Inferno was never real. The underworld is merely an allegory for your subconscious. You created these trials so that you could come to better understand who you are by learning who you are not. Your descent into the deepest, darkest parts of yourself represents your willingness to explore your shadow and integrate it, as opposed to denying your faults and remaining willfully blind to your own corruption. But why would I put myself through hell? I demand to know. Because you desire to grow, says myself dressed as Horus. You desire to remember. Only deep, slow pain compels us to descend to our ultimate depths, to see beyond the illusion of separation and all the lies that convince us our insecurities are rational. You have taken the opportunity to confront your fears and surrender to the knowledge of the divine within you and within all life. Now, you have another opportunity to be reborn, free of suffering, with a profound, joyful awareness of gratitude. I surrender to the divine in me. I look down. I don't want to be the devil. Myself dressed as Horus points to my chest, where my heart should be. The divine and the devil both exist within you, always, forever. As a human, you are never one or the other. You can be both. Myself, dressed as Anubis, adds, you are only the devil if you refuse to change. Given everything you've experienced, given all that you have learned, if you do not change the way you consume, you will forever remain a tool of the shadow. You will create your own hell and force yourself to stay there. I want to see the God in me, I say. I know it's there. I feel it inside, but I don't know where. How do I see the God in me? Love, says myself dressed as Horus. Love alone has the power to turn this dream of death into a waking awareness of eternal life. Love cannot be withdrawn from you, but you can perceive and believe it to be given to you or withheld from you. When you believe it is given to you, you understand that it is because of the grace that you are. Grace itself is the gift of essence that many religions call the Holy Spirit. Perhaps you call it higher self, perhaps you call it consciousness, but it is the grace. I nod. I'm ready to proceed towards love. I want to offer hope and compassion, not condemnation or conspiracy. I want to help others, not just myself. I want to be Mat. I want to be saved. Myself dressed as Horus shakes his head. You have already been saved. You are a child of God. You have been endowed by the grace of your Creator with eternal life. This gift is freely available to all. It is not earned or withheld. It is not of worthiness, and it cannot be taken away. You are one with God in this existence. I take a deep breath. I am one with all that ever was and will be. Remembrance of oneness is the key to Ascent, says myself dressed as Horus. It is the path to spiritual rebirth. It is the surest way to find love, grace, and hope everywhere you look. I have remembered the pieces of Osiris, I say. I remember I am one. Because you have awoken from the dream, now it is your responsibility to find the words to share your experience with others. That is the path of the Bodhisattva. The what? I ask, feeling overwhelmed. A Bodhisattva is any person on the path to Buddhahood. It is the new archetype you are stepping into, one who works to exemplify loving kindness, compassion, empathetic joy, and equanimity, explains myself dressed as Horus. You have walked in Horus' footstep long enough. You have lost your vision and regained it. You have triumphed over death and braved the underworld to share your vision with humanity. Your ascent from the Inferno is nearly complete. Only one question remains for you to answer. Can I be a Buddha? I ask, though I already know my answer. In a blink, my spirit body is transported from the frozen lake back to the ancient temple, before the giant golden scales of justice, as my heart teeters beside the feather of Mot. Just as it appears on this scale, the good and the bad will always be in front of you, says myself dressed as Anubis. Death and life, right and wrong, fear and love, expressions of compassion and hate will always be available for you to see. That is the nature of duality. How do I choose what I see? Your mind is the source of all vision, not your eyes, says myself dressed as Anubis. That is why you could still see after you went blind. In the mind, we choose what we give our awareness and attention to. Both realities are always available to you. The illusions of the Inferno exist only as long as you focus on victimhood, judgment, and suffering. A light appears, a newness, a brightness. The wavering shimmers take shape in a halo around my third eye. I have found the light within myself, the truth and order of Mot. At last the scales of justice settle. The feather of Mot sinks and my heart rises. The dishes meet in perfect balance. The weight is even. Unsure, I look to Anubis. What does this mean? Anubis bows. That you may live again. The spirit of the white wolf howls within me. Joy and relief flood my being. I know this journey into the underworld was designed to test me and drag me down, yet I was able to find light within the darkness, time and time again, and rise to remember who I was at the core of it all. One with God, one with love. At the center of my trauma, buried beneath the layers of pain and desperation and all the false limiting beliefs that I inherited or adopted, I discover hope and love for myself. Denied its meal, Amut groans. Opening its cavernous maw in a disappointed yawn, the dog with the crocodile head rises and returns to the water, vanishing beneath the placid surface. I return my attention to the scales of justice with a smile. I reach out, carefully retrieving my heart. I press the organ against my chest and let my spirit body reabsorb it. The weight of my heart is a comfort inside my rib cage. I'm whole, I pant in relief. Looking at myself dressed as Anubis, I continue. You told me that if my heart proved lighter than a feather, that I would have the opportunity to speak with God. Is that still so? Yes. I smile. The thought of being graced by the presence of the divine sounds like such a relief after all the suffering I've endured. I'm ready. Of course, says myself dressed as Anubis. A long moment of silence passes in stillness before he speaks again. Here he is. I look around, but no one new appears. I'm still staring at myself. Where? Right here, says myself dressed as Anubis, sounding amused. What were you expecting? It's all you. God lives in every man and every woman. It exists in every living thing, in all life, all light, all love. God is the stars and the space between them. It is you and you are it, experiencing itself. That is the dream. The illusion is the idea that you are not one with God. The fear comes from the idea that you are separate from the oneness. That fear is the reason you suffer. But it is a lie. I have no reason to suffer. My eyes close in acceptance. Speaking the words, I realize they are the greatest lesson I have learned or will ever learn. Opening my eyes, I ask God, now what? The answer is so simple. You choose. Epilogue. Ascent. Opening my eyes, I find myself staring in my bathroom mirror again. 3 words are written on the reflective glass in bright red lipstick. I am love. I remember being in this bathroom before, at the very beginning of my journey. I recall the mirror, clouded with fog, the murky water filling the sink, the clogged drain. I looked down, seeing stagnant black water in the basin. How long has this sludge been sitting here? How long has it been since I cleaned this room? And what even is this room I am in? I wonder if the conditions in this bathroom represent the conditions of my state of mind. Maybe the sink is a symbol of my heart, and the foul muck filling it is the weight of my ill deeds and thoughts. The water emits a foul stench. I can smell that there's something rotten in the sink. Something is clogging the drain pipe. Until this moment, I've been too afraid to reach my hand into the unknown to examine the source of the blockage. I've been too scared to help myself. But the Inferno has burned away all my fears and all my beliefs. Like a snake shedding its skin, I have relinquished the ideas of who I thought I was and what I thought was true. I have walked through the darkest depths of the underworld and arrived at this end a changed man, one who does not fear. For I am love. I reach into the mucky water. The liquid is almost viscous, like glue that has been mixed with thick, sweet red wine. There's something floating in it, little particles of dirt and other nasty things. My fingers descend deeper into the drain, managing to find the source of the clog. I snag a little chunk of chewed meat, feeling the flesh give beneath my touch. As soon as I start wiggling the clump, the pipes begin to make an awful racket. The sink rattles, hacking and coughing. It's a challenge, but finally, I'm able to pull the blockage free. I lift my hand out of the water, revealing a rotten piece of cheeseburger, bruised, brown, and riddled with decay. The murky water rushes down the drain with a hissing gasp. Gasping for breath, I roll onto my side, hacking up a chunk of cheeseburger onto the floorboards of my living room. Spit clings to my mouth as I sit up. My throat is raw. My heart hammers in protest of how truly close to death I just came. I steady my hand against my chest, panting. Somehow, I am alive. I can breathe again. By the grace of God, I have a second chance to appreciate all the things about my life that I once took for granted, empowered with the knowledge that whatever I choose to focus on, positive or negative, will be the reality that I see in the world. This concludes the Book of Inferno by Floowood, read by the author.